Welcome to another episode of Fred Hampton Roundtable Mondays, and we have a very, very special panel today. So we have, three FHL members, and what we're beginning to do is invite on some guests just to fill out the panel. And we have three very special guests today. Let's start with the three FHL members. We have myself, Compton J. We have Nick. What's up, Nick?
Yeah, I really like these Monday formats now. I think these should be a weekly thing, and also like that we bring in other guests on as well because that's the goal of FHL, right? We want to give a platform to as many leftist voices as possible. So I'm super excited about these new series that we're launching, guys. So this should be a good one.
Absolutely agree. And the other FHL member, brand new, love him on this team, or just glad to have him in our community or in my community. Kamali, what's up, sir?
Hey, what's going on? What's up? Glad to be here. As always, always honored to be amongst, great comrades. So this should be a really, really great panel we got going on today.
Awesome. All right, and let's go to the only female on the panel, but a regular FHL panelist. She's always on these panels, different shows. She was just on the JB show. We got to talk about that maybe later on. Liv, how are you doing, Liv?
I'm great. Thank you for having me tonight. Hello, everybody.
And now our two special guest panelists. I'll start with Aaron. Aaron, how I know you, Aaron, is Aaron Fights. That's really how I literally refer to you. But Aaron, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. Try not to be too starstruck, but I'm excited to get into some of these topics. Absolutely.
And last but certainly not least, I brought this next guest on because I recently saw his recent episode of his podcast, Revolutionary Readers, and it was great. This is Z. What's up, Z?
Hey, guys. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. And I can't help to say, but my wife helped me with that. So I have to give her credit for that, too.
Absolutely.
But thank you. And I'm so glad to be here, guys.
Absolutely. So a quick housekeeping. Make sure I got it. Yeah, a quick housekeeping items. Make sure you like this video. Just remember, videos or content like ours is being suppressed by all of these social media platforms. So the views that we get, the subscribers that we get, is because you are showing people, you're sharing our videos, you're liking our videos. So please do that so more people can watch this live stream. And the three topics we're going to be talking about today, or three of the topics, we might evolve into other topics, but main topic we're going to be talking about is stop donating to Democrats and Republicans. We're also going to cover the New York taxi driver hunger strike. And then we have some just Obama, it's several Obama takes. So I can't even really characterize it, but then we'll round it out with Obama towards the end. So let's get started, though, with the first topic I wanted to start with, everyone, which is the New York taxi cab driver hunger strike. And Kamali's going to take it from here. Just break it down for us, Kamali. What is the basics of the story, or what's happening with this story?
Yeah, so this is the New York Taxi Workers Alliance. They are a organization that represents the taxi workers, medallion holders in New York City, and they have been on strike for over a month now. They've recently began a hunger strike. This is day 6 of their hunger strike, and they are striking right outside of the New York City Hall. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this video first and let you hear from them directly about the issue. And then we'll come back and I'll round it out with a little bit of information. And then we'll hear from our panel. So let's and just a heads up, I'm playing this video. It's a longer video, so I'm playing this at 1.5 speed. If you're watching later, or you're watching now, you can slow it down if you need to. But I'm gonna play it at 1.5 speed, and I'm gonna skip through the middle part of the video as well. Okay, just so that we don't we're not gonna be sitting here through 7 minutes. I promise you. Okay, here we go.
I owe $638,000. Yeah, I have $800,000 loan. No. I owe $598,000. I owe $680,000. I owe $650,000. Yeah, $650,000. Yes.
We said we were willing to do all that is needed. We meant it. We have been here for 32 days. We have shut down bridges. We are going on a hunger strike. There is nothing that we will leave unturned, no stone unturned, because what is being asked to be risked by these drivers is life and death.
Most of the medallion owners, they are like the immigrant. 95% are new immigrants. Now we have lost everything. Now we are the American nightmare now. We have a dream before, we had the American dream. Now we are American nightmare now.
The city advertised this as a ticket to the middle class life. They sold it in a way that was very appealing to immigrants, to people who speak another language, for people who really wanted to buy. It was advertised as buying a piece of New York.
My father unfortunately passed away 6 years ago, and left me with the New York City taxi medallion as well as a $530,000 loan. And he ended up just telling me how much he loved owning a piece of New York. Just so proud of having this, and he knew that a piece of New York will be his interest in the middle class.
As a daughter of a taxi medallion driver and owner, I've seen intimately how the medallion crisis has changed over the past decade. I've seen how my father has struggled, working over 14-hour days just to make ends meet, to pay our bills, and to send me to school. In 2002, taxi medallions were worth about $200,000. At the same time, New York City was facing over a $4 billion budget shortfall, in which the city was looking for a way to raise the revenue to close that gap. The way that they did this was to auction off over 1,000 medallions to many New Yorkers who thought that this was a ticket to a life equity, a personal asset, and a ticket to middle-class life here in New York City. But many of the lenders who were involved in the medallion auctions were predatory, working off of working-class New Yorkers who couldn't understand a lot of the terms that were involved in many of these agreements. By the time 2014 rolled around, the values of taxi medallions skyrocketed to over $1 million. At the same time, around 2011 or 2012, e-hail services like Uber and Lyft were being introduced into New York City, but they were completely unregulated. So while the city was placing caps on the number of yellow taxi cabs that could operate in New York City, there was no cap on Uber and Lyft.
It's fair? I don't think so. It's fair. They stole for us, miss, everything. My husband was sick.
This is a workforce that has been so super exploited. There has been such a sense of despair among the drivers. And so to see drivers get past the suicides and the bankruptcies and all the heart attacks and the strokes and the utter level of despair and depression, to now being on the streets, refusing to leave until justice is won, having the courage to shut down a bridge in the middle of a morning rush hour, it's thrilling. It's workers taking back control over their life. We don't want the mayor to pass this on to a new administration coming in 2022. What we need to do is have him in his last 83 days or 82 days in office, make sure he includes a city-backed guarantee to the federal funds that were secured for this type of debt relief. If Mayor Bill de Blasio and our city government align with the New York Taxi Workers Alliance plan and put it to work, that could mean a transformational change for my family and thousands more across our city.
So what you heard there was the these are some of the workers that were there that were striking, also some of the family members as well. What they've seen is over at least 9 taxi drivers have committed suicide in recent years because of this crushing debt. The average debt held for a single taxi medallion is $550,000, and these taxi medallions are now valued at around $100,000. So the prices of these were inflated. This isn't just a New York issue. This is happening all around the country. In fact, a lot of the people that are purchasing these medallions are providing the loans to people that are purchasing these medallions are Wall Street hedge funds that are predatory lenders, and they have artificially jacked up the prices of these medallions and then just pulled the rug from underneath these people and left them with a worthless asset, essentially.
Kamali,
crushing debt.
Kamali, can you kind of explain what are these medallions?
Yes.
Do you know what this is or how?
Yeah, so a medallion is essentially a license to run a taxi cab. So that medallion is necessary in order to legally provide taxi services in New York City. It requires you in a lot of other major cities around the country, again, Boston, Chicago, New York, LA, it requires you to purchase one of these licenses. And these licenses, they were originally in Chicago, cost about $50,000. In New York, around $100,000 initially. And then the prices over time were just artificially jacked up. They were purchased, and they're an asset that people can hold. You can hold that asset, and you have to pay down on that loan on that medallion until you eventually own it. It's like taking out a mortgage on a home, essentially. And so something similar to what happened during the housing crisis has happened to these workers here. These people bought something that they thought was going to be, that the value was just going to go up and up and up, essentially. And they were, advertised to. Most of the people holding these loans are 95% of them are immigrants, Black, brown, Latino, Asian, Black immigrants that are holding this debt. They were sold this idea of the American dream, but it's like, the gentleman said there, it has become a nightmare for them. And so this debt is now, averaging $550,000 per person. Some people hold up to over $1 million in debt for these taxi medallions, and that debt can be passed down to generations. Your children, may have to take on that debt if you don't file for bankruptcy. If to put this in perspective, think about the average student loan debt for someone is about, anywhere between, on the high end, it gets up to, $100,000, $200,000 of student loan debt, and the hope is that there's some value to that education that you have. Here, those assets are wildly overvalued, and these people are stuck. And what's happened now is that they demanded a bailout, and what Mayor de Blasio did was he, instead of bailing out the workers, he bailed out the bankers. Essentially, he bailed out those lenders, the predatory lenders, and so they asked for over $500 million in debt relief. They were given $65 million, and the vast majority of that, what they did was they gave that money to the bankers, to the private lenders, and then asked the private lenders to then provide some sort of breaks to the people that had borrowed the money. So instead of just giving it directly to those taxi workers, giving it directly to the workers, they instead gave it, bailed out the bankers in this situation, in these predatory lenders. So these workers have gone on strike. 6 people were arrested in New York today. One was one of the socialist state assemblymen was arrested. He's the one who I actually got the news story from. And 5 other folks were arrested that were on this hunger strike, and this is day 6 of their hunger strike now. And would you like to kick us off there? Can Liv hear me?
I think she's frozen.
Okay.
Well, first off, that are, bodies really literally on the lines right now. But it's just continually breaks my heart because it's like, but it does give me some hope because I'm like, okay, this is the beginning of like starting the conversation of like, okay, you're on strike. Okay, this is great. We've already got you on strike. Now, what are you striking for? Okay, you want debt relief, or you want, they're striking for debt relief. But like, how much debt relief? Okay, we want all your debt relief. That's great. And what are you doing? You're driving a taxi. Okay, well, what do you need to power that taxi? Gas? That's a fossil fuel. Why are we doing fossil? It's fun. We should all have clean energy powered hovercraft and talk about that. Like, starting and we just somewhere.
I'm getting a little bit of feedback.
I'm getting a bunch of feedback. Liv.
Yeah. I don't know if we can fix up the. We're hearing a lot of feedback on your mic right now, Liv. I'm sorry. Maybe you can check that, and then we can come right back.
I can hop in real quick if you want.
Yep. And let me just add one point before we bring you in, Aaron. Just one point. The demands of the New York taxi drivers is that they're asking for the city to buy out the loans and then to then take over the loan. So to buy out the loans from the private lenders and then cap the loans at $125,000, no more than $800 a month. So that's the demand of the taxi workers. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is like I think what Liv had started saying, this is heartbreaking. And two things that really come to mind right at first. The first thing was Prop 22. If you remember, Prop 22 got jammed through in California, and it was led by companies like Uber, Lyft, all these companies that basically like hoodwinked people. They fooled people into thinking this was a good thing. And somehow in a blue state like California, you have Prop 22 passing, which essentially like it just made it very difficult for employees in that sector. And what we're seeing in New York, like New York had the opportunity to see what happened in California and be like, okay, so we're next, so they have, and so that's one thing that came to mind is like in regard to how these companies like Uber and Lyft play a role in this is that they're driving this. And so when I was reading this article, the two like things that really accelerated this was COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
COVID turned everything upside down. So that accelerated this issue and exposed the flaws in the structure that was, these like every loan is a vulture type loan. So, but it really exposed that and accelerated this. And then these companies, like we're in this new age where Uber, Lyft, I'm sure the people who were like investing their life savings in Medallion didn't foresee that there was going to be an Uber, a Lyft that totally changed the game.
Right.
They also didn't foresee themselves getting sold out by the government, because in their minds, like when you hear some of these people talk, it's like they were so proud. Like a lot of these were immigrants that came, they're trying to make something of themselves. But we bought a piece of New York, like worldwide. This is such a known thing. Like, how can this go wrong? And then now we're seeing this, and not only has it gone wrong, they're turning their back. And then the second thing that really pisses me off is that, again, you see this with Democrats, you see this with the Republicans. They take this top-down economic approach, and they say it's not on us. We gave this money, but we only gave it to the top. Just like when Trump gave all that money to corporations when he changed the tax codes and expected corporations to help benefit working class people, you're seeing the exact same strategy that Democrats and de Blasio is undertaking when he's giving all this money to the top, expecting loans to essentially be, like alleviate the pressure that's going on. And what it's led to is these hunger strikes. You have people committing suicide. You have people. You're right. It's just like the student loan debt, and it's it's a horrible thing, and we need worker solidarity.
Absolutely. Z, do you have any thoughts? You want to jump in there?
Yeah, I mean it's totally horrible. I mean, we see people committing suicide. I was looking at how much they bring in, the medallion industry brought in the past couple of years, and it was $850 million industry for the city, and I mean that's almost $1 billion, and I don't see why. I mean, I think one of the bigger issues is probably automation, and like we don't address it correctly. And we always just want to blame people for taking each other's jobs, or like when it's really the fact that we're starting to be getting an age of technology where things are like, but the only thing is the people who control the technology are still just capitalists. So it's making it go, and it's still making it a hellhole for everybody else. So it's just draining from other resources or businesses, I feel like. And to point out Aaron said, he's completely right. It's just sad, and I don't understand why they can't get a subsidy to just completely wipe it out and pay the people or train them so they can get other jobs, or I don't know, be able to sell their cab back or something, and get. But I don't know. It's just
I have a question, Kamali. So the city was short funds, and they said, "Hey, let's start licensing taxi cab, or let's start selling more licenses."
Yeah, they auctioned off about 1,000 of these medallions.
1,000 of, and they obviously cost a lot of money.
Exactly, and through those auctions, they managed to run up the prices artificially, because they went into this bidding, and some of the people that were bidding on them, not just in New York, they did this in New York, they did it in Chicago as well. And half of the licenses in Chicago went to people that lived in New York. So they weren't even people that were living in the city. These are hedge funds. These are big hedge funds and wealthy people that are able to bid up the price, like they would do for, with homes as well. They go, they buy up these homes that they don't plan to even live in, and then they sell it back to people or rent it, essentially lease it out and have people work, paying them. One gentleman that talked in the video at the part that we skipped, he was paying $56,000 a year just to work on somebody else's medallion, while he still had his own father's medallion that was tied up by a brokerage, and a broker was holding on to that. And so he was working to hopefully eventually earn enough to buy back his father's medallion from this broker. And so it's by and large.
No, it sounds like to me like the issue started with Michael Bloomberg having the shortfall and selling these things, because the people who bought up these things, they obviously know him. They obviously are his buddies who bought it. He knows these people. They're in the same class. They're class solidarity. So, there was a little bit, I feel like, rigging to this whole, from the beginning. And then I don't think it's a coincidence that 95% of the people who own this are immigrants. So they targeted a particular group who don't know much. It was targeted to them, selling them on an American dream, which we all know is not a dream. It's a joke.
Yep. And it was the same people that bid those prices up and bought those initially that were then became the lenders and provided the loans to these immigrants, and then they can jack up interest rates as well. So it's twofold. They're making money on both ends of it, really.
And I bet corporate media did not cover it at all. Of course they didn't say, hey, these hedge funds people who don't even live over here, or these people in Chicago who don't even live over here, they're buying up all this stuff. Why are they doing that? That's what our media is supposed to do. Yep. And I'm sure they didn't do that in this case. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nick, if you were gonna jump in there.
Yeah, I have a lot to say because this is a pretty shocking story. I'm glad that you guys brought it up. I always want to talk about how our system has failed us. Like, this is a story you would read out of a failed state. I always laugh at right wingers and capitalists. Because what do capitalists do, CJ? When they always talk about socialism, when they describe what they think socialism is,
they're describing themselves.
Our country. They literally this is the dystopia they paint socialist countries as. They say, yo, we can't implement socialism, we can't have communism because you have workers in debt, you have workers committing suicide. You have strikes everywhere because you have markets being destabilized. You had an economy that crashes every 4 to 7 years. And I'm like, you described our country. You described our capitalist society. I want you guys to realize that this is just another story that backs that up. This is another story that shows why you got to cover politics in the lens of the class war first and foremost. We in this country, we have capitalists who say the United States is such a great country. You have people that always say socialism is a failed ideology. We have student lunch debt in this country. We have kids. I remember growing up seeing, and I went through it as well. Like, people had to have the bologna sandwich and like 3 little scoops of macaroni and cheese for the hot meal.
Right.
And I was a kid. This is why I'm still brainwashed. I saw that, and I'm like, this is fucked up, isn't it? Y'all should feed my ass since I'm here. I couldn't articulate why this is wrong. Like, in terms
it's like a scarlet letter too, Nick, because everybody knows why you have that meal. All the kids know why you have that meal.
Yeah, it's another way to shame you. It's poor shame because we all knew the people that couldn't pay. We was in line, and that was like a phobia of mine. I'd be in line, all of a sudden, like, you owe money. I'm looking around in my pocket change. I got no change. I seen that happen all the time. They got the hot meal. We have these sandwiches they used to have. They used to be my favorite meal. They'll have burger sandwiches. I'm like, this is cool. But then you owe money, and you think you about to get this chicken sandwich that's the best meal they have every week, and you can't get it anymore. And we've seen the walk of shame. The walk of shame that people have when they get denied, they all walk all the way back to the table. And the thing is, I don't know how bullying was in your school, but like, bro, there was like solidarity almost. Like, we was, at least I didn't see it. Like, we wasn't teasing those kids. I'm like, damn, that's fucked up. Like, that's kind of shit that like planted the seed. Because I was like, bro, that's fucked. And I knew that as a kid, but these are the countries This is the country that we have. Look at the story that we just covered. And this is why I laugh at people who are to the right in this country. If you're even a centrist, if you're defending the capitalist state, where you got workers that are killing themselves. We got people going on hunger strike. We got workers that are going, you have to go in debt to make money in this country. They told us growing up, they said, go to college, make some money. My dumb ass listened to these capitalists. And then I went to college, now I'm in debt. For what?
Me too.
You gotta go to debt just to make money. Now you see, if you look at the jobs, they always say, "Oh, there's a worker shortage going on." Oh, there's a worker shortage. There's no worker shortage going on because I was looking for jobs. And guess what? I saw a job. They was like, "Yo, we're paying $17 an hour. You need a bachelor's degree."
I have a story for that one. I had a.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass it right to you. But like, you guys see what I'm talking about? I saw $17 an hour for a bachelor's degree. How much debt are you taking to get a job that pays $17 an hour? Like, you see how stupid this system is? But Z, go ahead, share your story.
I had an interview a couple weeks ago with this job, and they were doing like competitive pay, and they were like, it was like $12, and then like, and then after that, they were like, I got in, and I thought I was gonna get hired. I was okay, I'll just take it for right now because it was remote, and then this is a remote job, mind you. They're like, we need you to do this drug test, and I'm just like, what? I'm at home. So it's like no. They have they're punishing people. They're making it's like I can't go. Works at home. You're at work, and you're at work at home. They're getting into the house.
I'm always
for weed in Boston and Massachusetts, even though it's legal. There are jobs that are testing people for weed and not hiring people or firing people for weed, even though weed is legal in the state.
You have white people making money. They're making millions of dollars off of drugs that we are sent to prison for, that we are being denied jobs for.
Right.
And this is supposed to be a well-working society that people defend.
Lupe Fiasco in his song Niggas Gonna Lose, he said they legalizing this whole thing, they doing weed next cocaine, but these niggas ain't gonna have no jobs and Wall Street's gonna run the dope game. And that's some real ass shit right there. Like it's like that's what's happening.
Kamali, don't get me started, bro. Are you telling me you another conscious hip hop head? Because these lines be just drilling through my head all the time, and that's
I
one of
drop at least like one Lupe line per show that I do. I got at least one that I could tie to every single
Mural. I love Mural. I love delivery.
Beautiful.
Jesus. Okay. Anyway, that was a fun conversation.
I'll drop one during the
Obama. You might have a lot of things we talk about, like fucking anti-capitalist, like hip hop, hip hop. We gotta do that one day because I gotta look into it. That's what I grew up on, man. But go ahead.
Talib Kweli, Mos Def, those are some hot ones. But any last words on this topic here? Anything, Kamala, you feel like is important that we have not yet addressed on this topic before we move to the next thing?
Just one quick last thing that I'll point out, and we lightly touched on it, but it's really just, to highlight. I'm a software engineer. I work in the tech industry right now. So please don't come for me in my job, please, employers listening to here. But we got to recognize the role that these tech companies are playing in this, and what there's a term that you hear thrown around the tech industry constantly, and it's the idea of disruption. And whenever you hear about a tech company disrupting an industry, I just want you to do a little thought experiment, run a little thought experiment, and just swap out the term disruption with deregulation. All right, because whenever you hear them talking about disruption, they talk about Uber and Lyft disrupting the taxi industry, or Airbnb disrupting the hotel industry. What they're doing is those companies have massive legal teams, and what they're doing is they're skirting regulation and saving a dollar for themselves, based on of skirting regulations. So we end up setting ourselves back. You'll see it with Uber and Lyft. There's all kinds of regulations that were put into place. The reason that these medallions even did cost so much in the first place was because of all the regulations that came in around them. And it was to do things like, do background checks, make sure, because before there were taxi drivers that were, assaulting people, sexually assaulting people, raping women. We eventually regulated that out. Or in the case of, say, Airbnb and hotels, we have anti-discrimination laws that say that a hotel can't deny you based on, the color of your skin or your sexual orientation. But in Airbnb, we know all the stories that go on where Black, brown people are denied, Airbnbs because of, racist reasonings. And so a lot of the times when you're hearing about disruption in the tech industry, it's really what they're doing is just skirting regulations that are there to protect, the most vulnerable, most marginalized people. And we should never ease up or let them let up on that. And I would just love to see some worker solidarity, not just from the striking taxi workers, but from all those Uber and Lyft drivers. Aaron pointed out Prop 22. They were trying to fight, to get recognition as employees and not just contractors. You got to stand up and stand with these taxi drivers now if you want them to be on your side in those kind of fights. So this is why we have to have cross-industry solidarity wherever we can.
Real quick, the last thing I wanted to add too is they have the money. They have the money to help these workers. It's not like they don't have the money. They've shown that they've bailed out the top. They've bailed out Wall Street. They've bailed out the corporations. They show that they have money, endless amounts of money apparently, to fund police in New York City, but they don't have the help for this. It doesn't make any sense. So that I just wanted to point that out real quick. This isn't about funds or economics. This is a moral issue. This is about doing the right thing. And everyone, you hear people all the time, socialism, free handouts, like what Nick had pointed out. But what we're seeing is there's socialism in this country only for the rich. And then for the poor, the people of color, the disenfranchised immigrants, they just leave them to die. So that's all I got.
Yeah, and that was really my take. The first thing I heard when I heard the story was that was the first thing is like yet another disadvantaged group that they're placing their boot on their neck even tighter, and it's terrible. But let's go to the next topic. The next topic is the title of the episode, and that is
I can get into Biden.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Nick is so ready. So ready.
Because I want to try this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because at Fred Hampton Leftists, we are advocates of like direct action, mutual aid. We need to start game planning ways to survive this system, way to challenge the system, way to build the organization that is necessary so we can really challenge the capitalist state. So I'll explain why mutual aid is so important, because so we can build the horizontal structure we need to challenge capitalism, so we can uphold strikes, stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters who are falling behind in this police state. This is my main focus. There are some other people who disagree with us. These are the number one people who like criticize Fred Hampton Leftists because they put a lot of stock into electoral politics. They get upset at us when we always say, stop donating to politicians. That's the name of this video. Because that's a waste of left-wing resources. Look at the story we just covered. We have a capitalist state that's completely failing us. We have a police state that's continuing to get more funds. We have our civil liberties that are continuing to be rolled back. Our police state is literally stealing our rights. Like Biden administration, they tried to roll back our Fourth Amendment rights or Second Amendment rights. They tried to do this stuff. So this is the state we're in. The national security state is expanding. The military-industrial complex state is expanding. So we need to focus on tackling these things. But what some people want to say, they say, oh, we should just continue to donate to just the Democrats. We should fall in line behind the Democrats. And a lot of these people look pretty damn foolish. I want to introduce you guys to this guy. I want to give you guys a reaction on this because I saw this popped up a few days ago. This ties into what we're gonna talk about. Because now I have been critical of, we'll do that one next, of the progressives because their job is to do PR for the Democratic Party. That's their job. we have the Biden administration, the Democratic Party, who have failed their promises to the American people.
Yep.
Period. And now I'm gonna show you guys evidence of that. Biden's numbers right now is the worst a president has been since Trump, and he is right there with Trump. So people are now realizing, like, bro, we just pretty much replaced one Trump with a blue Trump that tweets nice things. Now the progressives have been working overtime because their job is to clean up their mess. This is Richie Torres. He was getting upset at Breonna Joy Gray because Breonna Joy Gray was calling out Biden on his failed promises, the Democratic Party not doing anything for anyone. This is his defense. Biden is not a dictator. He is a president with no votes to spare in the Senate, only 3 votes to spare in the House. And if you guys want to know, I'm gonna debunk this real quick. I'm gonna show you guys why this is ridiculous. If you guys want to know who this guy is, I'm gonna give a shout out to my friend Case Study. Check this video of Richie Torres. This is what he thinks of Joe Biden, and we're gonna do a breakdown of what Joe Biden did. I just wrote an op-ed on my Substack highlighting all the crimes and lies of Joe Biden. But check out what Richie Torres had to say. Let me mute my mic real quick. Hold up.
I'm not getting any audio out of there. I don't know if anyone else is. I'm not picking up any audio then.
Nope.
Let me restart it. 1 second.
The Progressive Caucus is enormously grateful to President Biden, who's emerged as the most progressive president in the history of the United States. He's a man on a mission. He's intent on passing not one, but 2 of the largest infrastructure investments in American history. And the purpose of the meeting was to impress upon members of Congress a sense of urgency around landing these planes as swiftly and as smoothly as we can. The Progressive Caucus.
Can you play that again, Nick? Only because I didn't catch the first part of that. It was kind of.
Is enormously grateful to President Biden, who's emerged as the most progressive president in the history of the United States. He's a man on a mission. He's intent on passing not one, but 2 of the largest infrastructure investments in American history. And the purpose of the meeting was to impress upon members. Enormously grateful to President Biden, who's emerged as the most progressive president in the history of the United States.
Oh goodness.
I had to play that part again. Now I got more to share, but I'm gonna pass it to the panel before I continue. This is the progressives. Richie Torres, Biden, the most progressive president. What's your guys' thoughts before I move on?
I saw Jayapal say something like that the other day on a video, and I was just like, "Really? Like,
right.
How can y'all just sit there and with straight faces and just say that kind of thing? Like, I can't even understand that."
Well, I guess who is he comparing it to?
Well, exactly.
Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, if I have 1 cent and you have 2, you can say I'm richer than you, right? But you got to know the details. Like what does that mean? So that's the only point I had about that.
But even then, even with the horrific history of U.S. presidents, and they're all, terrible for their own reasons, you still have to, like, he said the most progressive president in U.S. history. We have to put that up against somebody like, for all of his faults, we can talk about
Jimmy
internment
Carter,
camps under FDR. But under FDR, we saw one president that got reelected 4 times. We saw somebody who, with the pressure of the Socialist Party,
yes,
the Communist Party in the United States, and the trade unions pushing him. We saw him, enact Social Security. He created Medicare. We did not have Medicare before.
Come on. They always miss that part. How the Communist and Socialist Party when they talk about him and his presidency, they always forget to mention that detail. But I'm sorry to interrupt. You can continue, sir.
And it was truly because at that time we had the strongest socialist representation in all of U.S. history, since from before and after that point. There were in Oklahoma, they had over 100 socialists elected to government. For folks that don't know the history of the United States, because not through any fault of their own, I'm sure it's because they like to whitewash that sort of history. It was under the fear and the pressure of those groups. It was the Socialist Party that pushed for Social Security. It was the Socialist and Communist Party and the trade unions that pushed for the GI Bill and for unemployment insurance. So we got unemployment insurance, and those programs. Think about right now, they're saying we can't even move the Medicare, the age for Medicare from 65 to 60 or 65 to 55. They can't even do that. He was doing this from zero. There was no program. This program didn't exist, and these programs had to be started up and then implemented. And so in an unemployment insurance, what they call jobs insurance at the time, these programs never existed before FDR. There is nothing on that scale of permanent programs being put by Biden. Everything that he has done has been temporary at best.
Well, I have a question for everybody. Do you think, is it Premier Jayapal or this next, or this congressperson, do you think Torres, do you think they're unaware of FDR and what he did? Do you think they're unaware of that?
I think they're gaslighting. I think they're operating in horrific faith. So you saying Joe Biden, the most progressive president of all time, means literally nothing when we have a country where all our presidents in modern American history, at least, are war criminals. And that's me being very, very generous.
Exactly.
Our man himself said that every single president, including JFK, will be tried, and they're war criminals.
That's what they do.
Him even saying, and I'll pass it right to you, Aaron. Him even saying that Joe Biden, the most progressive president, you see what he's doing? He know he's bullshitting, so he's trying to say it in a way that gives him plausible deniability. So he can go, well, technically he is the most progressive, even though he sucks. So why are you gaslighting your people, Richie? Why do you gaslight your people, Pramila? But I'll let Aaron finish the thought.
Yeah, real quick. I just wanted to make 2 points. The first one is how they gaslight is they co-opt not only movements but language. I mean, the word progressive means nothing in the way that we think of it now. So they can say it with a straight face because they know based on their definition of progressive, then this might be a true thing. The second thing that I wanted to point out is what they always ignore, and you guys touched on this, is Joe Biden in his whole career has always been a warmonger. He loves war. He's one of the only people who said, I voted to go into Iraq and I would do it again. Like he said, that's always been who he is. And the other aspect of this, in my opinion, is like, what was one of the first things he did when he became president? He started back up the war rhetoric. He's already bombed Somalia. That was one of the first things he did. He's gave money back. He's gave money to Israel so they can continue to bomb Palestine. So you have these situations where the imperialist mindset, and I see this from progressives, type people. I saw a debate earlier today from Kobe, who was debating someone from DSA, and it just blew my mind the types of things he would say. He asked him point blank. He asked him, do you not care about the people who are getting bombed? And his answer with a straight face was like, well, I care more about my neighbors that I know than I would care about someone around the globe. And I think that's reasonable. And that's how they think. That gives you like an idea of how they're totally, Americans in general, no matter where they stand on the spectrum, are totally brainwashed.
This is what Aaron, and to your point, and to the larger point to all of the issues, is white supremacy. The idea of this like superiority sort of relationship, that idea comes from that. You get what I'm saying?
And CJ,
go ahead.
And I promise you, to back your point about how that actually is white supremacy, because when that person, I promise you, when he said, I actually care more about my neighbors, I bet you he wanted to sell out the issues of the black community in a heartbeat. I bet you.
Right.
I bet he's not talking
Right.
about reparations.
Right.
I bet he's
Right.
not talking about the ride or die
Right.
for reparations. I
Right.
bet he's not talking about ride or die for defund the police.
Right.
He's talking about policies that will help white
Right.
suburbanites. So yeah, he fight for Medicare for all a little bit. He fight for
Right.
$50 minimum wage a little bit. He fight for canceling student loan debt a little bit. But anything that doesn't affect him, they're not for. And I've been calling these leftists out, and they've been wondering why I've been so hostile to them.
But this
Because
is what.
Go ahead,
But this
CJ.
is why Liv, and I want to bring her in here. Why I believe, Nick, you called her. She's putting on the clinic on how to be a white ally.
Yeah.
When
exactly.
the whole situation, we're not going to go into the detail, but the whole situation that happened with Liv, and we all know, she put her body on the line for the water protectors, the indigenous water protectors. And that's the sort of walking in someone else's shoes that sort of Nick is sort of speaking to. So if you're not willing to take it to the point of people who are actually getting inflicted by police brutality, that are people who are actually don't have health care, like how far are they willing to take it? Well, if you're going to say you're in solidarity with that group, you have to be willing to take it that far too. That's how it works. Or that's, in my opinion, that's how it should work. And I'll pass it to Danny. Go ahead.
And there's some people who like to claim they're our allies, right? But they stay in like air-conditioned studios.
Mm-hmm.
And they rather criticize activists instead of joining them in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the people who I say you guys got to have a class analysis about, right? But anyone got anything else to add? I got another layer to the story. I'm just getting started.
I did mention Liv. So did you want to chime in here, or you just kind of wanted to?
No, I would love to. Nick, I know Nick has a lot to say about this topic, so I would love to hear what else you have to say.
Yes,
I'm gonna try to stop periodically to get your guys' takes, but
okay.
I'm building something here. So you guys saw Richard Torres, and you guys saw how he said Biden the most progressive president. So what is his response to left activists like us, people who criticize Joe Biden and calling him out for his gaslighting bullshit? Because that is what it is. That is gaslighting bullshit. So Brown George Gray, they exchanged a few times. I'm not gonna go through the entire exchange. Mm-hmm. They quote to each other a few times, but you guys can see the midst of what's going on. Where Brown George Gray is criticizing Joe Biden to the left, and Richie Torres is apologizing for him like a cuck. Like, you remember when Bernie Sanders was on Crystal Ball, and when he literally looked like a fraud, trying to not criticize Biden and apologize for him. That is the role of the progressive. So what's the title of this video? The title of this video, don't donate to these fucking politicians, because if you donate money to them, you're donating money to people who are signed up to be the PR agents of war criminals.
Yep.
So this is what Richard Torres says. He says, in your view, Biden is not progressive for failing to abolish child poverty overnight amid overwhelming obstructionism from the filibuster, the Republican Party, the conservative Democrats with veto power. The obstructionists, not Biden, should be blamed. The obstructionists. So this is the same shit I used to say. I remember back when I used to defend Barack Obama. Remember I used to say, well, Obama's not that bad because it's the Republicans getting his way. This does not make sense at face value, but this is a gaslighting technique that is effective against people who do not live and breathe politics like me. If you do not understand the power of the president, if you do not understand what Joe Biden has done, I wrote an entire op-ed highlighting his evil acts, right? If you don't understand this stuff, this sounds persuasive. And I'm going to tell you guys why this is bullshit. Richie says Biden is not a dictator. He is a president with no votes to spare in the Senate and only 3 votes to spare in the House. There's a few reasons why this is bullshit, and this is the line we get from progressives. And this is why we got to cover on this show, because we got to learn how to spot this out and call it out what it is, because this is propaganda on behalf of the ruling class that Pramila Jayapal and Richie Torres was doing. Don't sugarcoat this shit. This is why it's bullshit. This is great from David Sirota, because David Sirota himself, he had to go after Richie Torres for this nonsense. David Sirota says Biden powerless is a bullshit take. He and his administration have refused to use existing executive authority among other things, to cancel student loan debt, march in rights to lower medicine prices, share vaccine recipe, blah, blah, blah. So pretty much he got all these executive authority that he is not using. But you see how Richie Torres wants to mislead his supporters to thinking that's not the case? And one last thing I want to say before I pass to the panel, I'll give you guys take. Isn't it funny how whenever a Republican is president, he's an unstoppable dictator tyrant with unstoppable powers that you cannot stop? Donald Trump, oh my God, he's a tyrant. He's going to destroy democracy. He's going to completely upend this country. But then when a Democrat becomes in charge, oh my God, I can't do anything. How do people fall for this? Check out this article, Daily Poster. Stop pretending Biden is a powerless bystander. And this article, I'm not going to read the whole thing for you guys. He highlights all the things that Biden can do to make real change in your life right now that he is not doing. You know why we had the Medicare for All marches? You guys know that he can use his executive authority to expand Medicare to give us health care in the middle of a pandemic. But Richie Torres and Pramila Jayapal don't want you to know that. These people are nefarious. That's the point I'm making. Panel, what's your thoughts?
Agreed.
What I wanted to say about let me let the panel give their takes, because my take is going to be kind of different. So let me let the panel kind of give their take.
Trust me, I'm getting all into it. I'm gonna get into Obama too, so I still got some more to tell. But go ahead, I want to give you guys. I know I've been ranting for a while, so I'll give you guys a chance to chime in.
Go ahead, Z.
I feel like it's like half that and half like damage control, because they lied so much up to the point that Biden was going. Them and the press lied so much, and now that he's not doing anything, they still have to just go with what they were saying. I'll keep peddling the bullshit because they peddled it for so long, and now that people actually see that it's falling in front of them, they just keeping face. They just haven't broken character yet.
I think that they're playing their role. If we've all seen that meme where ratcheted one way and one of the parties stops it. And Democrats' role is to be powerless. That's their role. It's always, we almost had it. We almost had $15 minimum wage, but Joe Manchin, but Kristen Sinema, but rotating villain, insert here. You get what I'm saying? Like, so that's the Democrats' role in this whole duopoly, in this whole unified party, in order to make it seem like there is two parties. They have to be like always losing. Because like Nick just said, or I think it was Nick who pointed out, how come Trump is in office, there's a Democratic House, but he's going to end democracy if he's going to be reelected? How can he do that? In what way? And my response to people who always say that, if Trump or any other president can end our democracy in 4 or 8 years, that means our democracy was already in hospice care.
Sorry, trash.
Right. It's already in hospice care. That means it's already going to die. We're just waiting for it to die. So that's what I always say to those people. But then to have the same situation flipped, and then you have people like this guy Torres who's saying, these are all the reasons because the obstructionists. That's a propagandist word. Obstruction.
You also want to know why that's bullshit, CJ? And I think Kamali want to chime in. I'll be very short on this point, because Dave Schroeder, the point he makes is a very powerful way to take this down. But remember, I told you, I used to use that excuse with Obama. That's the psyop they used so you apologize for Democrats. Oh, it's the Republicans that are blocking him. If only the Republican wasn't. If it only went for Mitch McConnell. You guys know why that's bullshit if you are criticizing the president from the left? If I have criticisms of Joe Biden funding genocide, how is pointing to Republican restructurism a valid point? My criticism of Obama was that he bombed hospitals and weddings. Did Republican obstructionism stop him from doing that? Did Republican obstructionism stop Joe Biden from funding ICE more?
Right.
You guys see why that does not make sense if you want to defend Joe Biden from people who got leftist criticism of him? That doesn't make sense because he is committing evil. His sin is not that he's not doing stuff. I gotta explain this to people. My problem with the Democratic Party it's not just that they don't do enough for my people. They don't do enough for the Black community. They don't do enough for workers. It's what they actively do. This is what people don't understand. So when you look at what Bill Clinton, when you look at what they did in the 90s, sorry, I'll pass it to Kamala.
You know we're coming back around to that.
Because Nick and Kamali need to have like a one-on-one because you guys can go. But the thing is, it's all good. Like it's like all great content, great takes. So go ahead, Kamali.
I just want to add before Kamala starts. You gotta you watch what they agree on. They always find the room to agree on the military and the police state, but they never find any time to agree on Medicare for all. And they always, all of them, without a doubt, you can always know that they're going to give the military more funding. So it's like, we see what you're doing. You can say this all the time, but we see what you're doing.
And that's the important take. The other thing, too, is like what makes Dems more dangerous is everyone goes back to sleep and stops paying attention when they're doing these insidious things.
Right.
So they continue to do these things over and over. And everyone who is progressive leaning, who does have a conscience, who thinks that they're in a country that tries to do things for the best, are completely oblivious of what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm. Because to them, it's but Trump. Because to them,
exactly,
the other option is Trump. So whatever the Democrats are doing, you know, the other option is Trump, and that's what they always fall back on.
How many things Joe Biden continued that Trump was doing, and where's the outrage? There's still kids in cages. Right. There's still people. There's billions of dollars being sent to Israel to fund their health care, to fund their military, to fund their Iron Dome AOC, right? But
he's
then
also been out of the White House more.
We hear citizens in this country ask for help, ask for, okay, we're dying. We need Medicare for all. We need help. You know, workers' wages aren't enough to live in an economy like this. You have homeless people in Democratic states all over the country. But look at California, look at New York, all of these places. Those are Democratic-run places. So where's the outrage there? It's
absolutely terrible. It's absolutely terrible, and
that's what we predict.
That's the point when we're talking about the police state too. These are ran by Democrats, but we be meaning to get back to Kamali. Let's give him a chance to get his time in. Go ahead, Kamali.
Yeah, no, that's all good. I love the comments from Aaron there, especially, and Z. And you know, the word insidious that Aaron used, that was the exact word on my mind, just in referring to you know, what it is that these you know, Democratic Party, you know, operatives and the media, the mainstream media do to people, because what they're doing is in they targeting the, you know, through no fault of their own, yet again, you know, low information, you know, news watchers and voters, and what they do is they co-opt you. They make you complicit in this. And Nick said it, you know, he did it himself under Obama. I did the same thing with Obama. And so when I'm speaking from my own personal experience as well, and not saying that I have been able to rise above this in the past, but I try to look out for it now. And what they do is they co-opt you into it, right? They by feeding you these lies, right? In making sure that they get to those people. The media replays this over and over, and they'll play the clips of Richie Torres, but they won't put on any real, you know, leftists onto these networks, onto CNN or MSNBC. And what they do is, you know, by giving you just that much information, you go out there and you start to repeat that information. And once they got you in that way of saying, oh, well, the Republicans are obstructing, you know, because we hear this line from people all the time that are well-meaning people, that are working class people. I hear it all the time. Oh, well, it's the Republicans that are obstructing. And as soon as they got you, because now all of a sudden you're now a part of that lie. And now you feel like you have to become defensive when that lie is challenged. And so you really have to, you know, direct your anger towards the people that are lying to you, not the ones that are trying to, you know, break through and try to give you the truth. Folks like, you know, the folks here on Fred Hampton Leftists, what we're trying to do, and folks on the left, is to try to break through that, because once you become complicit, then you get onto the defensive and you start to run these same party lies and party lines, and you start to run their narrative for them. So it's just something that we have to be ever aware of when we're watching news and when we're listening to these Democrats and these different Democratic Party representatives speak, progressive or not. They are making us complicit. They are co-opting us into this, so that we then become a part of that noise. So just something that we should always look out for and be careful of.
So shall
No, I was saying, go ahead, Nick. I had my mic off, but go ahead.
I didn't know that was me. I couldn't hear you or what. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead continue. I still got a few more things that we're gonna come to the story because they're all gonna come back around to the video we're gonna talk about here. So this is all coming back. All the things we're talking about. There are a lot of people that had Trump derangement syndrome. We warned you guys what Aaron pointed out to you guys. What Aaron pointed out to you guys is the dynamic that I explained with you with my fellow FHO brothers and sisters. I had JB on my show. We were talking about this. I mean, this is before FHO even started. I talked to CJ about this months and months ago. I said and people got so mad at me for saying it. I said Joe Biden is actually scarier than Trump because he's gonna do the same thing that Trump does, but he's gonna have the media complicity and he's gonna have the liberal establishment apologizing for him. Kind of what we have now, right? It's kind of exactly what we have here for the thousand reasons, the thousands of Trump policies that he continued to roll over regarding his criminal justice policies, the mandatory minimum, which he continued to expand on, the ICE mandatory minimum. Like, bro, there's so many policies he continued to expand on Trump. I wrote an entire op-ed explaining them. So he expanded on Trump, but people are starting to wake up on this. Their Trump derangement syndrome starting to wear off. And now that they're actually looking at this president, that's why you got people saying, let's go Brandon. Okay, let's fuck Joe Biden, right? There's a reason why in polls you had a 20-point drop from Black Americans regarding Joe Biden. We are starting. So I'm not talking about this. Is not the right people are waking up. The people are waking up from the left. Now check this out, because this is why they are sending progressives out. Let me share this. Hold on. This is why they're sending progressives out to do damage control for Biden. So why is Pramila Jayapal saying what she's saying? Why is Rishi Torres saying what he's saying? Why are they sending these people to do PR for Joe Biden? Because he is underwater and his administration is failing as predicted. Because if you thought a neoliberal capitalist will handle this pandemic, will handle this time that we're in the climate crisis, for example, you out of your damn mind. So you see how CNN covered this? I think it's kind of hilarious. I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah.
Because do you see how they got to bring up Trump?
Just like liberals on Twitter. Anytime you bring up something, they have to bring up Trump. They have to insert him.
Yeah, they have to. And I covered this before. Whenever they cover Biden's policy that are evil, they will say Biden is using a Trump tactic. Biden is using a Trump era policy. No, these are Biden policies.
Right.
You see what they doing there? But anyway, Joe Biden approval rating is worse than any recent president. So what they're saying is Joe Biden is the second most unpopular president in modern American history. Here are the numbers that show it. I don't know if you guys can read it, but within the first 272 days of the presidency, he had 42%. Donald Trump was 37%. Look, and that's way lower than everyone else in modern American history, who should be lower, I admit. But doesn't that say something? Doesn't it say something that Morning Consult we recorded for the first time in this history that over 50% of American voters are independent?
Wow.
Does that say something? Does this and also this is the last point I'm gonna bring up before I pass it back to the panel? Why are people starting to get pissed off at Biden? You got a lot of people on the left that are starting to get pissed off at Biden as well. We'll cover that story here soon because this is why Biden is a de facto climate change denier. And I don't know why progressives they're covering for him and they're lying about this. Because remember when we was tweeting hashtag no middle ground?
Yes.
Because there's no middle ground on climate change. And now you got people advocating for incrementalism in the middle of a climate crisis. Look at the spending in the reconciliation bill. This is how much we're spending on the Pentagon. Climate funding. If you think, and once again, the reconciliation bill was never a starter on the climate. Why you think I never covered it on this show? There's some good provisions in there, stuff that the government should do. But if people were selling this as the climate plan, this was never the climate plan.
No,
because how can this be the climate plan if you fund the military more? He is a climate denier. You got progressives apologizing for him.
Nothing will fundamentally change.
And the youth realizes this. This is the last thing I'm gonna cover. I pass it to the panel. There are youth hunger strikes. We covered hunger strikes earlier in the show. You see how our system is falling apart? Our system is falling apart where people are going on hunger strikes across the country for different reasons. Youth hunger strikes are continuing to hold the ground. They are hunger striking because Joe Biden is not acting on climate change. That's why Biden's a failed president. That's why anyone who is left of center right shouldn't be apologizing for this guy. But look at what Richie Torres and Pramila Jayapal are saying.
Richard Torres is considered progressive. See,
He's a progressive caucus. He's been recently elected, and he was one of the people that were recently elected. It was like, yo, I'm a progressive. AOC propping him up.
That word means absolutely nothing anymore. That word means absolutely nothing. But go ahead to the panel. What do you think of this last part that Nick brought up? I'm curious to know your thoughts in the military spending versus the climate spending in the bill. Just the stark difference. That means that had to be at least 20 times the amount, if not more. So yeah, what do you think of this last part that Nick mentioned? Let's start with Z, then let's go to Liv, and then we'll go to Aaron.
Well, I mean, even when you look at even Bernie Sanders' climate plan alone, it was like 16 trillion. So like that alone is just shows you how like vapid this plan that they have is. It's a joke, and it's not, and that's probably not even going to get put into the bill. So it's like, what the hell?
Right.
I just don't get it.
I wonder what Sunrise Movement is thinking now. They put their reputation on the 9 line. It's irreparable. It's irreparable.
It is.
At this point. And look what's happening.
I used to volunteer for KC Sunrise. I don't fuck with them no more.
Yeah.
They even acknowledge that Biden haven't lived up to his expectations.
Right.
But they're still, their main focus is just pushing Biden's agenda. Like they're not pushing Biden on actually implementing a Green New Deal, on actually reducing the military spending. They're like, all right, we need to get more climate spending in the reconciliation package. That's what, which is, I'm not saying that's something, but if they're not pushing them on climate the way I think the true leftist should.
Just looking at it broadly, this is why electoral politics won't work. This is why any good, meaning person who wants to do well for his country running as a Democrat, you cannot transform the Democratic Party. You can't. Let me give you an analogy. Do you think if you're an abolitionist, you can go to a plantation and get a job and transform a plantation? It doesn't make any sense. The system, the plantation slavery system is the issue. You can't go in and we're gonna get enough abolitionists to take over a plantation. That doesn't make any sense to me. So, but yeah, that's my take on it. And Colin, thank you so much for your super chats. I think this is like his 4th one. Thank you so much for your super chat. Add Ro Khanna to the list of progressives who said that Biden is the most progressive. Wow, president.
Ro Khanna is trash.
Yeah,
he's bad. Like you have people that attack activists. They always say, "Oh, if you want to work with conservatives on getting Medicare for all," they're like, "Oh, you're red, brown, and lions. Oh, look at the red, brown lions. You can't work with fascists, bro." Meanwhile, you got Ro Khanna, who is literally friends with Bill Kristol. That's the red, brown lions. That's the red, blue lions. That's the blue, brown lions. I should say. That's what they advocate for. Like, can you at least be consistent? But anyway, kind of trash. They take, apparently, I learned this recently. Him and his wife take more money from weapon defense contractors than anyone else.
Yeah, I just read that recently too.
So what is that? So he pretends to be anti-imperialist, but then he do PR for people who are war criminals. So he diverting anti-establishment energy to support a war. Hey, look, I'm anti-establishment. Follow what I say. Joe Biden's a good guy. You guys see how nefarious these people are?
But Nick, this is the danger that these people, Ro Khanna, Pramila Jayapal, is that they have people who believe in a lot of the same policies we believe in, and those people describe themselves as leftists, as progressives. But then they see these people who they see as heroes saying Joe Biden is great. It makes you torn. It's like you as a progressive or a leftist should understand that that's ridiculous, but you admire this person. You admire this personality. You can't bring yourself to criticize this personality for some reason, and that's what I call these politicians at this point. They're just personalities to me.
Why we criticize them? This is why. It's nefarious. It's a psyop. It's a psyop because their job is to be the popular Instagram poster.
Right.
You see, she dropped Instagram because they adjusted to the modern times. They know how to reach the young people. The job of the progressives is to reach the young people, funnel them back into the Democratic Party. So people always say, why you spend so much time criticizing progressives? The same reason I spend a lot of time criticizing neoliberals. They serve two different roles operating this two-party duopoly. And people still fall for it. Like, it's unbelievable. The amount, like the channels that apologize for the squad are way bigger than ours. Like these people, they get a ton of viewers, ton of listeners. They got a ton of influence. Do not get it twisted. People are starting to change it around, but people are still falling for this. So this is why we got to start waking people up, because they are killing the revolutionary spirit in this country. AOC and the progressive base and the progressive politicians, they did not shift the country to the left. They shift what it means to be a socialist.
Right.
That's what
That's exactly what
right. So go ahead, Z. What is your take on that last point that Nick made? Like, they're not moving Joe Biden or the Democratic Party left. They're moving their followers from the left to the right or to the center.
I think that's is my mic on? Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think that they are taking a nefarious version of socialism. I think that Bernie Sanders didn't help with that. I think that he also, even though he did open up a lot of people's eyes when he started running, at the same time, the things he was running on was not fully leftist. That's why he would back away from things like reparations. He would back away from things like he would always distance himself when it really came down to the come down with like activists and things like that. And I think that them always pointing to Scandinavian socialism opposed to anything global south or anything east of Afghanistan, I think that is also an indicator. I think a huge issue is the Western mindset and the fact that it's not just, I don't think it's just happening in America. I think it's happening in like a worldwide Western issue that's going down. There's a crisis happening.
Absolutely. Let's go to Aaron. Same thing. What's your take on what anything has been said or any comments you have here?
I'll go real quick in case Liv wanted to go. But what I'll say is, with regard to that bill, you see Democrats negotiating with themselves. They're negotiating down a bill that started, well, I think it was $3 trillion or whatever it was. And now it's barely, just under 2, I believe. So they're negotiating down themselves. And CJ, you had mentioned earlier this rotating villain. That's exactly what's going on. And I think part of what the progressives do is they sow discord and they cause confusion, because what they end up doing is they change the bad guy. They move the goalposts. So right now you have Manchin, you have Sinema, and they're to blame. Not the most powerful person in the world, not Joe Biden. It's them. It's their fault. And what people don't understand is if they weren't there, they'll find someone else. They will always find someone else. And and you can never usually get to that part because they're so stuck and confused on what they're being told by their favorite politician, their favorite media outlet. It's hard. It's hard to break that cognitive dissonance because they understand it as a fundamental idea. But, when it comes down to it and they have to call out their own party or their own favorites that are perpetuating this or allowing Biden to continue to do what he's doing, then they shut off. They can't get to the last part, the most important part. And because of it, it's got us stuck where we are. And it'll continue until we wake more people up.
Let me set this up for Liv, because she is a co-host of Straight Outta Politics, so I know her takes on a couple of things, and I want her to express them here. So I know you're kind of over AOC, you're over people like Nina Turner, you're like forget these people there, within the Democratic Party. But more broadly, what do you think about the idea of what AOC, the squad, progressive, their job is as a Democrat, which is to get people who think like you and I live, and everybody on this panel, but maybe who aren't as animated or who is willing to take it as far as some of us will. They're funneling those people like, hey, yeah, you believe in all the same things that Liv and CJ believes in, but we have this Democratic Party, and in order to get all those things, we got to work within the system. And in 4 years, you get what I'm saying? Like, so that's their job, to funnel them back with reasonings. Well, this is the only way to get all of these things, when it's not. It's really general strike. Just imagine. I'm going to toss this tidbit in there and then pass it to you, Liv. Just imagine if the squad, if AOC, if Bernie Sanders just said, hey, we're all switching to the Green Party. Anybody who wants us, follow us. Let's go. Do you know what that would do? If they were really about the business, that life that they claim to be, why aren't they doing real revolutionary things? That's my question to those people. Why aren't they doing? They're just, let's be revolutionaries. What's in this guideline? That's not a revolutionary.
They call each other revolutionaries on Twitter. You see that, CJ?
No, I don't want to vomit. I don't watch. No.
I think it was like a revolutionary sister, bro.
What? No, I did see that, Nick. I was just making a joke, but I did see that. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. No, but I was setting that up for Liv. Like, Liv, what do you think of all of this AOC stuff, the squad, and really what their role is with funneling people like us who have the same policy beliefs back to the Democratic Party? What are your thoughts on that, Liv?
Well, someone already said it already. Okay, can you hear me now? I'm so sorry, y'all. Someone already said it already. It's like the squad's, the progressives' goal, which is now the squad's goal, is to maintain the performance and the theatrics of the Democratic Party, to keep funneling in voters and funders and donors and etc. So once you finally realize that's exactly what it is, just theatrics and total bullshit, and theater, just theater, then you can really start to be like, oh, maybe this is all bullshit, and like really start to be like questioning each and every part of the system. Like, okay, so like the squad, they're in the House. Okay, why isn't this working? Okay, well, what about in the Senate, in the filibuster? Okay, well, what about POTUS? And what about this? What about the fact that this is a whole government is trash, like, and built on white supremacy and slavery and everything. So let's talk about that. And then like how people mention, like, you know, we can never, you know, we can't even get 3.5 trillion over 10 years.
Right, that's 10 years.
Climate crisis where we're facing extinction.
Right.
But we can spend how much towards the military in the Pentagon and
why is that, Liv? Why do you think capitalists? Why do you think capitalists who want to keep making money? Why don't they want to save the planet? Like, they understand in order to keep making money, they need a planet. Why is that? Do you think they have some sort of other plan? Like, what did they think is going to happen?
Yes, CJ, I do think they have another plan. They're not fucking stupid. They know this planet has a time limit with all the natural resources that they're extracting and exploiting and the people they're killing and the doom they've set us upon. So they have their backup plan to go jet off to planet X, Y, and Z and go extract and do this whole shit show all over again and rinse and repeat, because that's what they can do unless we put a stop to it.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's my opinion. I've had discussions with Liv and a lot of you on this panel, and general strike is the answer, or some other sort of labor movement or some sort of large direct action. You kind of sort of see a quasi sort of that going on now with, you know, almost 11 million jobs still being open, people not going back to work to these low paying jobs, people, 4 million people quitting, I think 2 million, two months in a row in July, in August. And you're seeing all of these, Striketober going on. So you're seeing people, I'm just hoping people are waking up. But let's go back to Nick. I know you were gonna round this out, or you had one last thing to interject.
Now,
Can I jump in before you?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll be super quick. I just had a couple of points that I just wanted to throw out there. I'll be super quick, I promise. One is that on the topic of what we're talking about on the show today, AOC has raised over $30 million at this point. Just think about what we could do with $30 million in mutual aid. $30 million is 30 different worker cooperatives that could have been funded to the tune of $1 million each. We could have 30 democratically controlled and owned worker cooperatives right now in an industry like the cannabis industry that we know is ripe for, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that, you know, ripe for the picking, and we got no kind of support, and their capitalists are taking it over, like Nick said earlier. On the topic, and maybe you can pull up the screen share that I did while I'm talking here. But right on the topic of what Aaron and Nick were talking about with Trump and the difference between Trump and Biden, the difference between Trump and Biden is how these people talk about these issues. The same thing is happening whether it's Trump or Biden in office right now. Biden just had the record high 1.7 million arrests at the border, at the southern border, 1.7 million arrests. The difference being when the New York Times covers it, when it's Trump, they go haywire and they all, you know, everything, the world's on fire, the hair's on fire. When it's Joe Biden, they don't even mention the word arrest until 15 paragraphs down in this article. They finally tell you, they say 1.7 million encounters. Those encounters were all arrests. It's not until you get to 15 paragraphs down in this article that they finally even decide to use the term arrest in here. So you can see, you can go all the way, 655,000 Mexicans were arrested, 700,000 from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. That represents 78%. That's what they were talking about. But they'll use flowery language like encounters instead of arrests. That's the difference between when it's Biden or it's Trump, and it's propaganda. And this is why Nick says that we are the most propagandized people in the world. And then on your point, I just want to say AOC is going to do to the term socialism what Biden and the Democrats and Richie Torres have done to the term progressive. All right, they are watering that term down until it is all but meaningless. Okay, so just watch out for them. And when you hear them talking about being socialist, ignore that shit. They are not socialists. All right, what we are talking about is socialism here. When we talk about, you know, worker ownership, democracy in the workplace, democratic control over our institutions, that is real socialism. This minoritarian rule, you know, where they want you to elect a representative to go represent them, and then they don't do anything that you want them to do, is not real democracy. They need to stop narrowing the idea of democracy down to that. And then to your point, CJ, when you talked about abolitionists versus, you know, reformists, there were people during slavery that wanted, there were reformists and there were abolitionists during slavery. There were some people that thought we just needed nicer, kinder, sweeter slave masters. All right. There were people that thought, hey, they just need to treat them. We'll fight for them to treat their slaves a little bit better. All right. And then there were the people that were abolitionists. All right. And so now in this moment, you have to ask yourself, what are you, an abolitionist or a reformist for capitalism? All right. We are abolitionists here. All right. We don't want to see the continuation of capitalism in any way, shape, or form. All right. So in the same way that it was a moral obligation to be an abolitionist of slavery, it is in the same sense a moral obligation for us right now to be abolitionists for the system of capitalism. And that means abolishing the employer-employee relationship and dynamic in the workplace and in our economic system. That's all I got to say for now. Sorry, I just had to interject.
That was it. Drop the mic. Man, it was almost like you rehearsed that, but I know you didn't.
That was so good.
Was just in sync like that. But no, but you got all those great points in. Kamali, thank you for that. I forget who was about to talk. Was it you, Nick, that was about to say something?
We'll pivot to this because I think we're gonna have fun with this next video I'm gonna share with you guys, because I'm gonna show you this for a reason. We just made a pretty compelling argument against Biden and the Democratic Party, but now we have an election year coming up, and you guys see the title of this video. Do not fall for it. Don't fall for it. I know people always want to talk tough. I heard you guys last time. You guys talked tough last time, and you guys fell in line.
They fell for it.
Don't fall for it this time. You guys think it's painful right now. If you guys think what Pramila Jayapal said is painful, if you guys think Richie Torres what he said is painful, just wait until AOC progressive Bernie Sanders and squad, they're going to campaign for Democrats in 2022. You know they're going to get the order. They're going to get the order to campaign for them. Right now, they had to make nice statements to keep morale up. But when they campaign next year, it's going to be very brutal. It's going to be a lot of gaslighting, and a lot of these heroes are going to get exposed. Now, you got a lot of people coming out trying to increase enthusiasm, even though we already showed that Joe Biden's tanking. Early polls show Democrats are screwed for 2022. There have been a lot of early signs of this. Now we have Barack Obama, who is trying to gaslight people on this. And let's I want to get your guys' reaction to this. Barack Obama is going to be a thorn on our side for decades.
Oh my God!
You guys see how long they live, right? Like kids are still ticking. Barack Obama is pretty healthy. He's going to be a thorn on our side for decades to come.
He's still young.
Yeah, by politician standards, he's still young. Yes.
Before I play this, I want you guys to think about this. When do you see Barack Obama come out in the media? Do you see Barack Obama come out in the media stand in solidarity with the workers that are striking?
Never.
Do you see him come out in the media and he's like, "Yo, I'm a stand in solidarity. I think we should expand Medicare."
Nope.
Hey, Joe Biden, there's some people protesting for Medicare fraud. They say you can expand Medicare by executive order. Let's do that. Then let's rally the folks. Like Barack Obama home rallies to get us health care. You know, so he don't do that, right?
Of course.
When do Obama come out?
To protect
when do Obama come out?
To protect Wall Street, to protect the interests of the capitalists that are controlling the country.
Every time.
Every time. Shut up and dribble.
How long did it take for him to like even say anything when Trump was in office? He was just on a jet ski, just hanging out with billionaires.
Silent. He was silent.
Look at her.
NBA players are trying to strike and do something for the people when black people are getting murdered by cops. Now he comes out and says, "Shut up and dribble." Imagine if the NBA continued on that strike. Imagine. This dude is the worst.
You gotta see where he comes out, right?
That's her take on the video, Nick. She already saw it. She said, "I already saw this bloody guilt trip."
Jesus.
So go ahead, Nick.
I'll let the video play. Actually, let me put my headphones so I can interject in the middle, so I don't have to mute myself. 1 second. Can you guys hear it?
No, I'm not going to bother voting this time.
You guys can hear it?
But here's the thing, we can't. I know why sometimes.
I had to do this because I don't know if I'm going to listen to the whole thing. But you guys see that. Anyway, let's listen to it. Let's get through it. Let's try it.
Folks just get tired, and maybe they say, I'm not going to bother voting this time. But here's the thing, we can't afford to be tired. I remember in 2016, folks said, I'm not inspired.
Why do you think that is?
Because he was a neoliberal and he was terrible.
You suck. I just want to hear somebody say that in the crowd.
You guys realize they already pulling out Russiagate for 2022? You guys realize they're already starting that? They already saying that misinformation is going to be a big problem in 2022. They would never admit what they did wrong because it's all about saving face, it's all about saving their career. But anyway, let me continue this.
Obama was okay, but we didn't get everything I wanted, so I'm just going to sit it next time. And y'all know how that turned out. That's what happens when you're not paying attention. That's what happens when you become complacent.
Obama was okay. Obama didn't do everything I wanted him to. No, that's not the critique. And I'm gonna give you guys, because we're gonna apologize a few times. I'm gonna give you guys take as well. That is not the critique. Believe it or not. My critique of Obama is like, oh my God, Obama didn't do enough for black people. No, my critique of Obama is he tanked our wealth. He built up the prison industrial complex and funded it more. He ramped up the military industrial complex. What is he talking about? And then you're like, well, you're not informed if you don't support the Democrats. No, it's the exact opposite. What's your guys' thoughts before I play it?
Well, I got, me, like I said, I got a Lupe line for everything. So, I will quote my man Lupe in his track Words I Never Said, where he said, Limbaugh is a racist, Glenn Beck is a racist, Gaza Strip was getting bombed, Obama didn't say shit. That's why I ain't vote for him. Next one either. I'm a part of the problem. My problem is I'm peaceful and I believe in the people. So that's why we don't vote for Obama. It ain't about the fact that we didn't get everything we want. It's the fact that we got nothing that we wanted. And you're a warmongering, Republican. He said it himself. He governed like a Republican. You are no different than these other, than the George Bush that you were replacing. And you're just a different face, a black face put over that. And so we see you. We see through that, and we see the horrors that you commit. And like George Carlin said, if they say that you don't have a right to criticize if you don't vote, but the reality is that when you do vote for these people, you don't have a right to criticize because you are a part of putting them in power. All right, you have done your part to put them in power. So it's really the people that do vote these people in that don't really have a right to criticize. But me, if I stay home and I don't do that on election day, then I do feel like I still have a right to criticize them. So
the people who the OGs who watch my old YouTube show, they know I have a really hard time playing these politicians talking without stopping the video. I have no idea how people listen to these people and not immediately repost. We are 30 seconds in. I am repost. I used to think that Pete Buttigieg did a bad Barack Obama impersonation. I used to think, in hindsight, Pete Buttigieg nailed it. Because after I heard Pete Buttigieg, I can't unhear him when I hear Barack Obama speak. Seriously, like ignore his cadence that he try to imitate a Baptist church pastor. Yes. Ignore that and listen to what he say. It's exactly like Pete Buttigieg. It's just Pete Buttigieg didn't have the swagger.
That's why they love Wall Street loves Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And he's next. And not Kamala, guys. They already dumped Kamala. It's Pete. You guys should still be scared of Pete. Let me try and play some more of this video.
Or you let your front. That's what happened. I'm just gonna sit it next time. And y'all know how that turned out. That's what happens when you're not paying attention. That's what happens when you become complacent. Or you let your frustration lead to inaction.
One last thing. I'm sorry, guys. One last thing. I want you guys to think about this while this video play. I'm not going to be long. Think about what he's doing here. Why is he putting the onus on us?
As usual.
You guys see that? Mm-hmm. You guys were complacent. The failure is on you. Sorry, let me continue. But I want you guys to highlight that. Listen to that.
We cannot afford to be tired because of the young people here and the ones who are coming. I know it's hard. Phil doesn't claim he's going to solve every problem in New Jersey right away. I didn't solve every problem when I was president. But the fact is that as hard as it is, we can still make it better. It's hard to undo the legacy of discrimination that goes back centuries, but we can make it better. It's hard to deal with special interests who want to keep the status quo when you're trying to make the economy more fair and just, but you can make it better. It's hard in a big country where people disagree to get everybody moving in the same direction, but we can do.
Should we play the rest? Do you guys hear what he's saying?
That's Neil. He's describing incrementalism. He's describing liberalism. He's describing the whole concept of liberalism. Take this crumb and be satisfied till you get your next crumb. Fight for your next crumb. That's it. And you hold your hand like this. You get what I'm saying? It's all part of the whole. It's all part of the whole thing. Like that's a neoliberalism thing right here, right? That's the neoliberalism grip. Yes, you know what I'm saying? So, and he's trying to make it seem casual, like he's just talking off the cuff when the teleprompter. So that's why he's moving like this. He's being more skilled. He's more skilled. He's trying. He's making it seem like he's just talking. No, he's reading that entire speech. But this is why he's dangerous. Because Barack Obama has the ability to inspire and speak, which is for a president is one of the most important things when trying to be elected. Being able to talk off the cuff, he is able to do that at some time. You get what I'm saying? He's able to push the right buttons, and he is the politician who has put on a clinic on how to talk like a progressive, but not actually be a progressive. That's why so many young people voted for him initially, because he knew the speak. He knew how to say the words like AOC, like the squad, but not governing, not following through with those things.
He's trying to push in a. Sorry.
Go ahead, Z. Go ahead, Z.
I said he's trying to push in the guy he's campaigning for, Phil Murphy. He literally is a Goldman Sachs head.
Yeah. Obama, look, that's his boy.
That's his boy. That's why he's there.
It's like, but like he's saying all that, but it's like, look what he's trying to push through real fast while you're not paying attention to him, Republican bashing and bashing you guys. Well, not you guys, but the people in the audience.
Right. Right. It's like we didn't win in 2016 because you guys weren't motivated. You guys were frustrated. It's like, how about it's your job to motivate us to get to the polls? How about that? How about it's your party's job to offer something that makes us want to vote for you instead of just saying the other guys has less slop than ours, so come over here to us. That's basically essentially the choices we have. There's slop over here, and then there's a teaspoon more slop on this other one. So which one do you want?
And it's so crazy that it's like it's still inspiring because when you really listen to it, he is just telling you, do you want this piece of crap or this piece of crap?
Exactly.
This piece of crap with a cherry on top of it. So
you see the gaslight? You see the gaslight? Because I told people I don't have Trump derangement syndrome because all these people lie just like Trump. If you know Barack Obama's record like all of us do, every single fucking thing he said was a lie.
Right.
Like he pretended that the economy was doing great, bro. The economy crashed under you. He pretended that he held Wall Street accountable in that speech. You literally bailed him out and you literally gave him immunity. So what he was saying, everything he said in his speech, and I'm gonna finish the rest of the clip, and that's why I paused it. It's just like Trump, bro. This is literally everything he lied about. Every single damn thing. This is why I didn't have Trump derangement syndrome. He lied about all that stuff.
I think Liv has a thought before we go back to the clip. Liv? No? Okay, yeah. All right,
I was just saying that was all facts.
So let's watch the end of the clip. It's just an extreme gaslight in him just trying to rewrite his legacy. Like we know if you listen to what he says there, we know what he has done. It's insane. I'm gonna try to finish the whole clip without pausing it this time.
He said try. He said try.
You guys know, like if you watch my whole show, I can't listen to these people without telling you guys every sentence is a lie. Like I tell you, I can break down every sentence they say. I can tell you why they said it. Like I can tell, it's a gaslight on top of a gaslight that a lot of people miss. Like I don't know how people listen to that, and I'm like, dude, this dude is just like Trump.
I got some smoke for him after too when you're done with the clip.
Yeah, we go Aaron first, then we get Z and then Kamali after we finish the clip here. Let me give me 1 second here.
Nation that goes back centuries, but we can make it better. It's hard to deal with special interests who want to keep the status quo when you're trying to make the economy more fair and just, but you can make it better. It's hard in a big country where people disagree to get everybody moving in the same direction, but we can do better than we're doing. We really can. We can make it better. And when you've got the right person in the job, we might not get every single person employed, but we can get more people, more jobs. We may not get every child the best education in the world right here in Newark. We can give a lot more kids better education here in Newark. I didn't get every American health care, but boy, we got a whole lot more people in America health care. It makes a difference when we decide to make things better. When you've got somebody in your corner who's shown you that they will work for you, who has a track record of accomplishment. You got to go out there and work for them. Not because everything's going to suddenly be perfect, but because it's going to be better. And you're preventing others from making it worse.
You got to work for them. Doesn't that say everything, that one sentence? Mm-hmm. You got to work for them. And if I don't accomplish my promises, it's your fault. Isn't it hilarious how they never lose?
Mm-hmm. The problem, Nick, the problem is the day that being elected went from being a public servant to being a politician. When you make being a politician a career, that begins the problem. That begins because that's how you entrench corruption. Corruption grows and gets stronger because you're there. 30 years when you have Mitch and Nancy, this is why Nancy can just keep being speaker like this, even though she's terrible, and keep saying, oh, this is my last run, and get progressives to abstain when they know that abstaining means she's going to be elected. So this is the reason why, to me, that is very important. But let's go ahead, go to the panel. What are your thoughts on this last part, or all of this about Obama, just the idea of Obama and what he comes out for? For example, we could have used Joe Manchin with the $15 being included in the reconciliation. Why didn't Obama come out then? He came out to get Bernie Sanders to drop out. He came out to get Pete Buttigieg and I think Elizabeth Warren was still in at the time to drop out. He comes out for this.
Amy Klobuchar is who he got.
Amy Klobuchar, yeah, that is correct. Amy Klobuchar.
Elizabeth Warren staying in was also a part of her.
Also a part of it
with that vote.
Right. So the point I'm making is he picks and chooses who to come out for. He never comes out for the things that he claims he wants. Better minimum wage, unions. When I mean, we can use you at Medicare for All March, Obama. You claim that you want it. They never use that. And it's the same critique with AOC. It's the same, or it's getting to be the same critique with AOC. She literally, somebody said she literally can get the ball rolling on a general strike. She literally could get, I'm not saying she can carry the whole general strike. I'm saying she can get the ball rolling. She literally can take millions to the Green Party. Millions of people she can get registered with the Green Party. If they really want the stuff they want, why aren't they doing it? It's because they want the career more than the stuff they want. And that's what I'm saying. Once it becomes a career, that's when it becomes a problem. So any thoughts? Go ahead.
You want to know what's scary, CJ? Because you know the psyop and the point that Barack Obama and the Democratic Party wants to hammer home. It's your fault if we don't get anything done. If the onus is on you. You know who's been repeating that? You know who learned from that? AOC fans.
Mm-hmm.
These are the DSA type.
Yeah,
these are the Sam Theater, the majority report types. Any failure that happens on the left is because the red, brown lines. Because you guys didn't organize. You guys got to organize, right? Like they always put the onus on us. They always defend the politicians and they attack activists. That's the same thing they're doing. It's on us if there's not progress. It's on us if there's not change to be made. And that's the same thing they use to defend politicians.
Let's go to Aaron. I think you were going to say something, Aaron.
Yeah, I have a lot to say on this. This is wild. So the first thing I'll say is one thing that helps me see through the bullshit, no matter where someone identifies, is when I think about it from the perspective and the lens of class solidarity, right? Class solidarity. Because at the end of the day, Obama's moves are always to be within the best interest of the corporate class, right? Those are always his moves. Same thing with Donald Trump. They are the same in that regard. And what a lot of people ignore or don't understand or choose to look the other way regarding this is that neoliberalism is what got us Trump to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Neoliberal, like Obama is the embodiment of neoliberalism because of everything he's saying is sounding progressive, but everything he's doing is just perpetuating the U.S. imperialism around the world. That's leaving these incremental things that don't really help, that don't really do much to truly make a difference in our lives here, and are making cataclysmic destruction around the world. People ignore that, and it's easy for them to ignore that when the media is not covering it. So they just, in their mind, it's like it's not happening because it wasn't on CNN or it wasn't on, all these news outlets. So neoliberalism is like at the heart of all this. And the other thing, and so when I think about class solidarity, that helps me focus on the fact that why are people registered Republican so angry? Why is Obama so divisive? People always say I won't even say his name, but there are people on the left who are talking on these things, and they say, well, he's too divisive. These people are too divisive. But they fail to see how Obama is even more divisive or just as divisive. And from a strategy standpoint, I think it's important. This kind of ties back to the mutual aid standpoint, is that if we take our resources and where our power is, our power lies in labor, in workers coming together, regardless of where they're from, what they look like, how they talk, whatever. That's labor is where the power is. So if we can, the most dangerous thing to them, what we could do is reach out to people that may not necessarily align with us or grew up Republican or whatever, and get them to buy into what's happening right now from a class standpoint. I think class solidarity is everything, because once you can bridge that gap using that strategy, then all this other stuff is just distraction. It's just they're just distracting us. And while they're distracting us, they use people are fighting among themselves here. What are they doing overseas? Obama, I just wanted to read this. This is one of the comments. I follow this person, Gritty 20202. He has great stuff. This is one of the comments he left underneath that. It says the Obama years, 5 million deportations, 563 drone strikes, 10K plus missions, attacking 5 new countries, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Pakistan, Somalia. Look how that's being continued. Biden's already bombed Somalia. Libya ended up, slavery came back in Libya. So we have all these things happening, trillions in bailouts, not to us, not to people, but to Wall Street. Never closed Gitmo, never left Iraq and Afghanistan. And these are just cut food stamps. I mean, it goes on and on. No minimum wage increase. So he's gaslighting us, saying, oh, you didn't get everything. We didn't get anything. You didn't do anything. You sold black people and black communities out, sold them all out. And what makes him dangerous is when you call him on that, when I see allies who are white, who are leftists, who just factually state what Obama did. What do Democrats do? What do libs do? Oh, you're a racist. You just don't like him because you're black. No, we don't like him because of what you've done, what he's doing. So that's why I think it's so important to have black leftists talking about this and going after. We have to go after him with everything we have, because like Nick said, he's not going away. He's going to be here for the long haul. And as long as he's here, he's going to continue to stop movements. He's going to continue to tap dance for the corporate class.
Right.
Everything. And the last point I wanted to make, I was listening to something that was going on. They were talking about, so the new big thing is China. Like that's the new propaganda. Like we have China. That's what everyone's talking about. And this is what's happening right now. So we've seen it with Russia. We've seen it with China. And one of the things that I took away was that during the Obama years, one of the most arrogant things he did was he essentially like the imperialist strategy was to not care about what China was doing or what Russia was doing. And part of the reason why Russia, messed with our plans in both Syria and what they did in Crimea in the Ukraine is because we were going at we essentially were messing with their only hot water source or warm water sources. And they only had 2. So when we messed with their resources and we messed with their economy, it basically gave them a lane to kind of come together. And part of so now you have 2 very powerful countries come together in a way that for years and years and years, they were always fighting against each other. But because of the U.S. arrogance and their strategy, partly attacking Libya, which weakened Europe's power source, energy source, resources. It weakened Europe, which is supposed to be an ally. And so we continue to basically do these blunders, going back to George Bush, Clinton. We just blunder based on arrogance, right? And then what's that? So now we've left with this situation where China is now economically powerful, strong. Russia is in a place where they're in a good place. They've bounced back all the way from the 1990s. After when the USSR fell, they bounced all the way back. So these are powerful players that we kind of poo-poo and ignore. But now you see them lashing out. You see them realizing they maybe made a mistake. And part of why they're so desperate in the narratives and what's going on in the world is because these powerful two sides are working together. So my point is, to bring it back to this, if we on the left can work together with anyone who has class solidarity, regardless of where you're from, whether it's in the Midwest, whether it's anywhere, we have the ability to really shake things up. Powerful.
Let me jump in here. As far as class solidarity, to Aaron's point, class solidarity on the other spectrum, on the other side, because the critique, I agree, more black leftists like us need to go after Obama to show that these are real critiques and has nothing to do with race. I actually brought on Margaret Kimberly from the Black Agenda Report, and the title of that video is Obama Sucks. Make sure you search that. But that is very important. But what this sets up is going to expose the fault line that travels directly through the black community, and that's the black elite and how they not really represented us. They're representing their class. So they love Obama.
Yeah.
Love. They will
hardcore.
They will go out and ride or die for Obama. Okay. So when people like us are critiquing him, it is completely, they don't even understand why are we saying what we're saying. Like, it's so shocking to them,
right,
that we have these critiques. And what's more shocking to them, what's shocking to me, is that a lot of the critiques we have, or I explain, they have no idea about Obama. And in particular, the 90% drone strikes of civilians. They have zero idea. And I was one of them when I was a liberal. I had no idea about that. And I think Z was going to chime in. If I'm wrong, please tell me. And then we can go to Kamali if you wanted to chime in there.
Yeah, I mean, even in I'm in South Carolina right now, and we have our black community with churches is huge around here. You comment the wrong thing on Obama, you get, and his fan base, especially in the black community, still, because he didn't really get bashed like that. He's still come out pretty clean. He's gotten his reputation still looks really good, and there's still a lot of work to do in that area.
Well, especially if you let corporate media paint the picture of who he is. Like, yeah, he's the Sammy Davis Jr. He's the black person that all the white people like because he has shown and proven that he will choose his white class members or his white classmates over his black community or their black community. And I think you have to show and prove that in order for you to be taken in by said white communities. Nick or Liv, did either of you want to jump in on this topic?
We need to Kamali.
I'm sorry. I did miss Kamali. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I'll make a quick point. Just to what he said, it was really infuriating just hear him talking about. One thing that he mentioned, he said that we can't afford to be too tired. He said we can't afford to be too tired. When the reality is that most Americans can't afford to not be too tired to go out there and to do this shit all over again. Right? 78% of Americans live in paycheck to paycheck. 50% of Americans, are $500 away from a $500 emergency away from having to sell off their belongings or file for bankruptcy in order to cover costs. So the idea that we can't afford to be too tired is absolutely ridiculous. You got so many people working 2-3 jobs just to scrape by because of the paltry, unlivable wage that he provided. When he came into office, it was $7.50 an hour. When he left office, still $7.50 an hour. So the minimum wage move nowhere. And as far as, we mentioned earlier on, them talking about, the most progressive president and Biden was there under that, regime as well. And we saw no kind of increase in the minimum wage. And of course, the whole minimum wage began under FDR. We didn't have a minimum wage before FDR. So that's yet another one of FDR's accomplishments. And again, with the pressure of the communist and socialist parties, he also had a 100, he proposed a 100% top marginal tax rate. We're not even talking about taxing, the billionaires and the million, in the 100 millionaires at this stage. We've just lost all that sort. They talk about tax the rich, and they'll wear a nice, outfit to their, $30,000 a ticket event, but no real change comes out of that. And so one of the last things that just pissed me off in his video was just that he kept on talking about how we can get a little bit better, right? It's always a little bit better, but they're not really weighing that against the alternative. And what Aaron was saying, what Z said, the distraction, right? So Aaron talked about how it's a distraction. And that's the thing. We don't talk enough about how when we spend all of our time in electoralism, that becomes a distraction from fighting the real fights. And so when he talks about, we can get a little bit better. Oh, sure. Yeah. When you put up one awful, horrific candidate against another, sure, one might be better than the other, but the alternative is we go with neither of those and we instead direct all of our money, resources, and energy towards mutual aid, towards development of democratic worker cooperatives and these other initiatives. And through those means of direct action that we get a whole lot better. So we don't accept 50,000 Americans dying every year without health insurance under the ACA and under Obamacare. We say, no, enough is enough. And if we have to go on a general strike in order to demand and get and achieve a Medicare for all and improved Medicare for all system, then that's what we do. And that's far better than these bullshit, this false idea of choice that they're giving us.
What I always say, Kamali, to people, or like Obama said, I only gave, thousands more people, or maybe he said millions more people healthcare. They're literally talking about expansion of Medicaid. And let me make sure people understand. You have to perpetually be in a state of poverty to qualify for that. Mm-hmm. So let's stop acting like that is something good. It's good in the sense that, yes, while they're in poverty, they're covered. But how about talking about getting them out of poverty? That's the discussion we need to have, not this. As long as, you have to be in a perpetual state, meaning you have to keep qualifying. You have to keep sending in paperwork to qualify because they need to make sure you're destitute in getting this care.
Can I add to that real fast? About the just about the real fast, just about that comment for Medicare.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the Medicaid expansion. Yeah, and in most of the red states, like here, there's still money just sitting there because most of the red states blocked the expansion, and he didn't do anything about it. So we didn't even see any of the. We still have money, like millions, or I don't know how much, just waiting there, not being used because red states didn't want to pass Obama's legislation. So, and they didn't do anything about it. So it's just like when they were cutting unemployment in red states earlier this year, and they were just like,
yeah, because they were going to let it run out 2 months later, so they couldn't say anything. That's why they can't critique about war. That's why they have to, lift up and rehabilitate George W. Bush for these reasons. So, but let's go to Aaron, because I know you wanted to say something, Aaron. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, I was just saying, to add on to what you were saying, poverty by their definition.
Right.
Which is ridiculous, because poverty by their definition is very limiting. Like right outside of that is still a poverty type state. Like it's not livable, but those people wouldn't qualify based on their definition.
The poverty line should be twice as much. I think Nick told me that Richard Wolff, or maybe somebody else said it should be twice what it is.
Yeah, that's such a great point by Aaron, because if you guys want context, according to federal guidelines, to be out of poverty, if you are a single mother with 2 kids, if you're making $23,000 a year, you're technically out of poverty.
That's egregious.
A single mother with 2 kids. I live in a relatively low cost of living area in the Midwest. I'm in a flyover state, right? You can't live on that here with 2 kids, let alone New York, let alone California. And you guys remember the propaganda they were using? They would say, Joe Biden's plan lifts X amount of Americans out of poverty. This is how they was able to say this, because the poverty rate was a joke. Now ask yourself, why are there progressives repeating this? Why do progressives repeat the nonsense that buying going to reduce poverty instead of bringing up the point we are that the poverty rate in America is a joke to begin with? I have one last thing because before we lay off Obama, if you guys want to know the role of Barack Obama and why we must go after him, you guys saw he killed the NBA strike. He literally killed Bernie campaign with a phone call and with an endorsement. If we do not take Barack Obama out now, we do not take him down a peg among the American people, there is nothing stopping him from crushing our movements moving forward. You guys want to see the role of Barack Obama? This is what the kind of shit you're gonna see from Barack Obama moving forward, because he's gonna live for another few decades. Look at the shit that he is putting out there in the political ethos. This is propaganda on the next level. I can break this down so many ways. Obama says change may be coming too rapidly for many.
What?
Change is coming too rapidly in this country. Do you guys know why he's saying this?
They're losing his grip.
This is propaganda on the next level. This is to give the illusion that there is progress, especially progress within the Democratic Party, even though it's the exact opposite. We are going backwards. You guys realize the capitalists are rewriting the child labor laws? Yep. We are going backwards. Child labor is back. The 40-hour work week is dead. We are going backwards as a society. But Obama said change is coming too rapidly for many. You see how he's fucking with the Overton window? You see how the discourse, instead of saying that our police state is expanding and too many people getting killed by our police, instead of mentioning the fact that 40% of the homelessness population is black and the homeless population is exploding, you see how he doesn't mention that? He mentioned change is coming too fast for many. And this is the thing. Once again, Barack Obama's entire onus, put the onus on yourself. He said part of what we tried to do in the podcast was to get everyone to feel a little more willing to recognize, our own faults. I'm not going to play the video, but that's what he said. So what is Obama saying? It's not capitalism that failed. It's not me that failed you. It's your failure. Mm-hmm. If you're well tanked when I was president, if you're part of the Black American, it's your failure. You should have buckled up your bootstrap. You should pull up your pants. Right. You should stop listening to rap music. Right. You should work hard for your boss.
Or this, Nick. You should have voted in more squad members.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I was about to say that. I was just about to say that, CJ.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're saying the same things right now. Like we were the ones that are getting paid $300,000 to do their job. That's not how it works. We elected them. We helped support them to be in the position they are so they could do things while they're there.
And I always say this about AOC and the squad and any other progressive. If you told people when you were campaigning and people were door knocking and phone banking for you that you were going to go there and cozy up to Nancy Pelosi, you would have never been elected. If you told us that from the beginning, if you went up there and said you were going to do what you did for the Iron Dome, you would have never been elected.
Right.
And that's the problem I have with just politicians in general. They don't necessarily follow through. But any last words? We do gotta. It ties into this. So I guess we don't have to have last words. So it ties into the broader thing. All of this is about stop donating to Democrats and Republicans. This entire episode, we sort of broke it down on why you should stop donating to them. And before we go offline, Nick, I'm going to give you, I reached out to Afeni, FHL member Afeni, and I asked if she had some mutual aid organizations that she wants for this episode that we can promote. So if you're a person who donates or have donated to Democrats or Republicans, stop doing it. Use your money in a better way to directly help somebody. Find a mutual aid fund. We're going to refer a couple of mutual aid funds that Afeni, like I said, FHL member, she has a mutual aid organization herself. And then a couple of others she told me about. So I'm going to bring that up. But let's insert this because we've already hit our 2-hour mark, but we want to make sure we get everybody's just take on this. But Stop donating to Democrats and Republicans. That's how we're going to break the duopoly. Use those funds and redirect those funds to mutual aid. Let's build up our mutual aid infrastructure. We're talking local, we're talking regional, we're talking nationwide. So what is everybody's thought on this? I do want to start with Kamali, since this is kind of up your wheelhouse out per se. When you're talking about worker co-ops, you're talking about all of that. So what is your take on what I'm asking? Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been trying to, push this narrative for a long time as well, that we have to redirect, in the same way we talk about defunding the police, we need to start to defund the Democrats and the Republican Party, and redirect those funds, right? Just make better investments, reinvest those funds towards places that are democratic institutions, right? So mutual aid, democratically controlled mutual aid networks, and worker cooperative movements, support worker cooperatives wherever we can, because that is where we actually give power back to the people. So, Cooperation Jackson is one organization that I wholeheartedly support. Real, true socialist organizations, I think, that are doing the work of building the infrastructure that the rest of us will be able to use to actually enact democracy in our own organizations. Groups like the Black Socialists in America, I think, are doing important work in building up technological infrastructure to support dual power projects. So definitely just check out what they're doing. Look to them. They are great on the leftist theory and political education, but they're also building up the technical infrastructure through what they call the Dual Power app that will allow us to actually participate in democracy within the organizations that we belong to. So we're all part of sort of this idea of the online left. I think we try to log off and do the work outside of just being online. But as long as we are part of this online network, we're going to need ways to in infrastructure, technological infrastructure, so that we can do things like vote and build democratic consensus in whatever organizations we belong to. We can't let the same mistakes happen that happen under these capitalist, hierarchical, top-down organizations that we constantly see being corrupted. In order to avoid that, we have to build up the technological infrastructure ourselves and support those mutual aid networks and those groups that are doing the real work. So I would just urge you to support whatever Afeni is, puts forth, for sure.
Yes.
And also check out what BSA is doing with their Dual Power app.
Absolutely. So let's go to Aaron. Aaron, your ideas on a new movement, or creating a new movement, establishing a new movement that says stop donating money to Democrats and Republicans, or for short, defund the Republicans, defund the Democrats, or defund the duopoly. What are your thoughts on that? And also, where should we redirect our funds? Is mutual aid a good alternative?
Yeah, I echo everything Kamali said. I think that was spot on. Honestly, I think, there's so many organizations out there. If you just look to your local communities, see what you can do to help, understand the difference between charity and mutual aid. This is something that's really important. There was this website. It's mutualaidhub.org. You can basically find different organizations through that hub. They try to kind of centralize it. I think it's important. If you are going to stay within electoral politics, I think you shouldn't put too much effort into it, or at least understand that lane is there's plenty of people in that lane. There's not enough people in this lane. And the more people we have consolidating our power, consolidating our funds, our resources, not falling for the Democratic Party grift. The biggest lesson I learned about the Democratic Party is it's the biggest grift in this country. It really is. And once you understand that, just look at what they did to ending the eviction moratorium. They were taking photos, and then the next day they had the photos, sending emails out with those photos talking about all the things they did, and they fundraised off of it. And what was the outcome? Nothing changed. Not only did they leave out that 10% initially, but then, oh, sorry, nothing we can do, got overturned by the courts. It's so nothing. They did nothing, but they fundraised off. So understand that once you understand how big of a grift the whole scheme is, then it'll make you feel better to be like, well, I know for a fact there's organizations that are helping homeless in my community. I want to shout out Working Class and Houseless Organizing Alliance, WHOA, in my location, Greensboro, North Carolina. They're doing excellent work. They do things. They not only do mutual aid, but they also advocate for Marcus Smith, who, if you don't know about that story, I urge you to look it up. It's really crazy. And then that website with the mutual aid hub. The last thing I'll say is, strategy-wise, try to overlook some of the national narrative and do what you can to work locally. And I know this is easier said than done, but I truly believe in building coalition. Building coalition, no matter how hard or whatever, is really the key to all this. So I don't really talk about myself too much, but just for an example, I work with MPP and I work with DSA locally. And those groups nationally are the exact opposite. But I understand that locally, my local DSA does excellent work for mutual aid. So I work with them because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. I disagree with the majority of their platform, but for this community right here, locally, right now, I work with them because they're helping people right now. That's what it is.
I've heard that too. I'm sorry to interject. I've heard the same thing, that there's a lot of great local DSA, MPP. Yep. It's just national. The national narrative is not the greatest. So
if you're able to tune out some of the horrible takes you see online, and from a national standpoint, and from people who are like debating that dude from DSA that debated Kobe earlier today, just if you can compartmentalize that stuff and see the work that your locals and understand that it's what you make it. I can go in there and I can push them left. My local DSA is one of the only, if not, it wasn't the only, but it was one of the few that endorsed the march for Medicare for All. We endorsed it like on Twitter, and that's because my voice was heard there, and people saw it. They're like, why wouldn't I want to support this? And they supported it. Didn't have the politics behind what's going on. And as far as MPP, that's my way of working with the inside game. Whether I know there's a huge divide from a national standpoint to the local states, but at the end of the day, if there's work being done, or if you in your local state, you can get a candidate on any local ballot that won't take corporate money, won't sell out the second they get there. Why not shoot all your shots? So that's my take on that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aaron. I think who do we have? Liv and Z. What are your take on, now you are, just full disclosure, you are chair and co-chair of the Green Party in your state. So I just want to make sure people know that when you give your take, but stop giving to Democrats, stop giving to Republicans, and for you, maybe let's add this in, and instead give to mutual aids. And if you still have money, maybe give a little to the Green Party, or a Green Party candidate that you believe in your local area. That's what I would say. But Liv, what is your take on this whole concept of stop giving to Democrats and Republicans? Have you ever given to a Democrat and Republican in your life? And if you did, do you regret it? Liv.
I was trying to think of that today because I wanted to be so proud and be like, well, I have never donated to a Democrat. And I was like, fuck, man, I think AOC got me. I think I might have.
Do you regret it?
Yes, of course I do. Of course I do. But the fact that I'm not totally sure about it, I'm gonna try and like take comfort in the fact that I might have not been able to like given all the money. I don't know, but like I think at one point, whether it be Bernie or a squad member, I may have donated. So yes, I completely regret it, but at the same time, like it's gotten me to where I am now, and I do believe everything happens for a reason. So now I know better, and I'm here now talking to y'all, helping tell more people to learn from our mistakes and to realize, like, to wake up now. And To me, where the main place to be donating your money at is mutual aid and strike funds. I would love to see what else Afeni has going on. Yeah, please let us know. I also am doing mutual aid efforts in my my communities in Annapolis and Baltimore City. My Twitter is also my Venmo handle, and also in my bio is my Venmo and my Cash App. So like y'all were talking about like Obama, like I didn't fucking pay any mind to this because I've been fucking busy running mutual aid all day. So like, and this is not none of my time. I see Obama my timeline. I was like, scroll. So I've been too busy organizing crowdfunding money with the help of all y'all. Y'all are amazing. To do a mutual aid run today, where I was able to get a bunch of supplies for kits that I was able to go distribute out in Baltimore City, and it was great. I need to start working on typing up a little message to put in the kits as well, because Rome has really pressed me that you got to spread the message with what you're handing out. So I got to get that get working on that as well. Also with my platform with the Green Party, as with all electoral politics right now, I think is shit, and we should be focusing on mutual aid. So that is what I'm doing with my platform with the Green Party, is to organize a mutual aid event that will be happening. We think I'm thinking it's going to be on Black Friday. And I saw someone else in the chat like, let's do another general strike on Black Friday. And I was talking about it with some other comrades in Twitter space today, that the next big general strike, or whatever we want to call it, be on Black Friday. So yeah, I'm gonna use my platform with Maryland Green Party to host a mutual aid event in the Baltimore City area on Black Friday. And then also And the Damn Wars is hosting a mutual aid event December 11th, which I'm a part of. So stay tuned.
Yes, I've heard about that. Also, what I just had on screen there is just this is one of the organizations, mutual aid organizations that Afeni referred me to. This is actually her organization that she's a part of. I'm going to show you the others, but I'm going to read what she says. So her organization is the Freedom Fighters DC. Then there's another one I'm going to show you called Heal the Homies, which is raising money for a community center. Then there is an organization called Hoochies of Houston, who is doing an amazing work in Texas. They are founded, the Hoochies in Houston are founded by Black queer sex workers, and it's such a dope collective is how she describes it. So this first one here is Afeni, or I should say Afeni's mutual aid. But let me show you the other one before we go to the next panelist here. Heal the Homies right here real quick. Show you Heal the Homies. Make sure you follow them just like it sounds. Heal the Homies, DA. A Black and BIPOC-led communist organization based in acquiring liberation for houseless and systematically disadvantaged groups and building the solidarity economy. Sounds like what we're talking about right here, building the solidarity economy, in other words, mutual aid. So that's another mutual aid organization. So instead of giving it to billionaires, literally, these are billionaire organizations, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, who gets money from corporations. They don't need your money at all whatsoever. So instead of giving your money to people who are already well off, give it to people who are in need, like these people from some of these mutual aid organizations. So let me show the last one that Afeni sent me before I go to the next panelist here, right here, Hoochies of Houston. And that's this last one here. Hoochies Helping Humans, Houston's grassroots organization dedicated to the empowerment of Black people and protection of Black women. So yeah, check these organizations out if you're interested. Also, you can do research on your own. Aaron talked about a website that you can find different mutual aid organizations. So just wanted to throw that in there. And I believe, was it Z, where you're next, or was it? Yeah, I think it was Z. So Z, go ahead, stop giving money to Democrats and Republicans and maybe funnel that to mutual aid organizations. What are your thoughts on that? Do you know of any mutual aid organizations? And why do you think people give money to Democrats and Republicans?
As far as mutual aid organizations, I like to echo off of Aaron, and the mutual aid hub is good. If you're like here, when you type in the mutual aid hub in South Carolina and you don't get anything to pop up, you can always take some of your own money and just, go out and buy some food and pass it out to homeless or people that you think might need it, or just, share. I think that voting for the Green, I've been voting for the Green Party, but as far as duopoly, no. Talking to your neighbor, setting things up like gardening, learning how to make your own vegetable gardens, just things like that, getting the community more in on things, and just spreading education.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Z. Now let's go. I believe that's our yes. Go. Oh, Nick is on break, but before we go to Nick, there he goes. Because I wanted to get your comment before we close here about. I wanted you to kind of sum up just the whole concept, because I know you got a little bit more to say about it. Stop donating to Democrats. Stop donating to Republicans. This is how we're going to break the duopoly. What are your thoughts on that concept, that movement, creating a sort of movement of, promoting, stop giving them money, help each other? What are your thoughts, Nick?
You guys laid out, and we did throughout the course of this live stream, all the reasons why. You guys got to understand why we are such advocates of mutual aid. We don't have unlimited resources like the neoliberals and conservatives do. And I think we've been very wasteful with our funds as a movement, but also, and this is also the difference between mutual aid and charity that I think Aaron actually was mentioning, is about building a structure that we can work around. And that's the difference between charity and mutual aid, because charity is just all about top down, all about the organization and centering the organization. Meanwhile, mutual aid is about having a horizontal approach, that we have a system of solidarity. And because we have this system of solidarity, that allows us to strike. That allows us to support our comrade like Liv, who is helping with public disobedience. So not just raising funds. It's about building a structure in which a left movement can exist. So if we actually have a solid foundation of mutual aid, more people will be able to do what Liv did.
Right.
So it's more than just about the cash now. It's about how we resist the government, and without a solid mutual aid system, we can't even begin the resistance. So that's why we advocate that.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that directs that away from that, anything that directs away from feeding your family, your friends, your neighbors in late stage capitalism that we in right now, in this police state that we live right now, where our wealth could be taken, where we gotta pay legal fees, it's just a giant waste of our time. And the people who are class loyal, the people who are loyal to the politicians, they want nothing more than that because they value order at the end of the day, because they class loyal. But that's all I have. Are you done? So,
okay.
But make sure that's the important point, and that's the difference. And the top-down versus horizontal approach, it applies as a leftist, not even just mutual aid. So why do I criticize the Justice Democrats? Why don't you donate to the Justice Democrats? You guys understand that the Squad, Justice Democrats, the LC, that whole thing is a top-down approach. You give money to the Justice Democrats, the Justice Democrats will hire people to represent you. You see the layers of remove how that removed. You donate to them, and then they will take care of you. You see that, and then they will represent you. You gotta rely on them. But us, it's all about us building a community horizontal structure where we directly have each other back. But anyway, that's all I have. I got Ron Cohen on the show on tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern. Facts and Fire, all that stuff. So we got a lot.
I can't wait for that one. I can't wait for that. Facts and Fire is before your show. So since Nick started it, I was just about to do it. what we like to do for those that are new to our panels, at the end of the show, we give everybody, 30 seconds. They usually go over, but let's do it this time. Let's try to keep it to 30, 45 seconds where you just basically say, hey, this is what I got coming up. I'll be on this podcast, that podcast. I got this mutual aid going on. I'm going to be at this protest. I'm going to be at this march, that sort of thing. So let's try to keep it to about 45 seconds, please, just because we've already been over our time. So let's start with Aaron, then I'll go to Kamali, and then I'll go to Liv. But Aaron, do you have any appearances coming up? Do you have any events coming up? What do you got going on, Aaron?
All right, so I'm going to use my time to say this one last point, which is when you hear people say all the time, like, is that squad member in your region? Are they the ones that represent you? Is that your rep? And you said no, but I helped, I gave them money, I volunteered for them, I did all these things. That's another reason to say, okay, I'm going to withhold my money. Like you said, they're not my rep. I'm going to use this money for mutual aid. You can find me on Twitter, Aaron at Aaron Flow Power, and I appreciate being on the panel.
Absolutely. Aaron will definitely be back on some future panels, so you will definitely be back, sir. I think I said, did I say Liv or Z was next? I can't.
Z.
All right. Okay, so Liv.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys. And I am right coming up this week. Every Thursday at 9. I'm a show Revolutionary Reader, where we go over books that we've been reading on the left, and like to go over them, and sometimes autobiographies, sometimes just general moments that happen in the left, just to get a better view of history and educating the left, because I think that's a huge issue. You can find me on the Populist Voice Network, Populist_voice, and also at We Should Read.
Absolutely. Like I said, I watched his episode, and that's the reason why I invited him for this particular panel. So check out that first episode was really, really good. So check that out. That is Z. So let's go to Liv. Liv, your final thoughts. What's coming up for you?
Final thoughts. Don't pay any fucking mind to politicians at all, anyone across the spectrum. And just focus on what's going on in your community right now and what you can be doing to make a difference. And that's mutual aid. So you can look up mutual aid near you or near me, and hopefully you'll get a bunch of results. If not, there's some of the ones that we've already mentioned. Also, one that I'm also trying to get involved with is Mutual Aid Disaster Relief. They're a nationwide organization, really that's launched into action, especially after COVID has hit. And then my own mutual aid efforts I'm doing with the help of all y'all by making mutual aid kits and distributing throughout my communities in Maryland. And then also using my platform with the Green Party to host some mutual aid events coming up. And probably a few more protests down the line.
We love those. Yes. So let's go to Kamali. What do you have coming up, sir? What do you got going on?
Sure. You can just catch me FHL Monday roundtables. I'll be here for as long as they'll have me. And nothing else going on right now. Just working behind the scenes. I will direct everyone towards, again, Black Socialists in America. Check them out at Dual Power App on Twitter. I think it's a really important piece of infrastructure that we need across the left organizationally in order to do what we want to do. And I will say one other thing. Just recently, a Black activist in Boston was arrested by the feds, and they run an organization. They help run an organization called Violence in Boston. They're mostly aimed at like helping and highlighting the abuses of the Boston Police Department. There's a Black activist. Her husband was arrested by the feds on unemployment fraud charges over some bullshit. It's a financial crime, a white collar crime. When billionaires do it, nobody gets arrested. But when working class Black people do, the feds swoop in, raid their home, and lock them up. So his name is Clark Grant. His wife is Monica Cannon Grant. So if you have any spare funds to support, I think they need some bail relief right now. So I'll just draw your attention towards that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Kamali. And since Nick, you didn't kind of know you were giving your last word, did you have anything else you wanted to say before?
That's all I have. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. We got a lot of shows.
Yeah, Facts and Fire, and Nick will be on tomorrow. Make sure you check that out. For me, I'll be on Wednesday, straight out of politics with my co-host Liv. We're back on at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. Eastern this Wednesday, so check me out then. We're also still planning the General Strike Summit in the background. Scheduling is kind of hard. That's why it's grinding, but it's still moving forward. So look for updates on that. Outside of that, we're going to be signing off here. Thanks for joining. And Monday episode of the Roundtable. I'm going to be signing off. Everybody just kind of stay on for several seconds after. So see everybody next time. Thank you for joining.